Chapter 1173. At night, Chu Qingyan had just finished bathing and was preparing to go to bed to rest when there was a loud knock on her door. Her brows jumped up and she immediately opened the door. Hualing, what is it? When she opened the door and saw Hualing in his rash appearance, Chu Qingyan had a bad premonition, so she immediately asked this. Hualing did not waste any time as he quickly said, according to Xiao Lai's cavalry who is watching over Snowflake Cake and the others, Glutinous Rice Ball hasn't eaten anything since yesterday. They thought it was because the weather was too hot and the little thing had no appetite, so no one paid any attention. However, today Glutinous Rice Ball has been completely listless and won't drink any water. Bai Yutong and the others have been circling around it, but nothing has happened. 2 hours ago, Glutinous Rice Ball began vomiting and the situation doesn't seem to be good. How could it be like this? Does His Highness know? Chu Qingyan stepped out the door and prepared to leave the palace. Pigeon Feather sent a letter, so this subordinate immediately came to report to you. Master hasn't reported yet. Mu Ling saw her anxious appearance and immediately stopped her. Little princess, calm down first. I've already sent someone to call a veterinarian. You should wait for Master to come first before discussing this matter. Hualing's heart was filled with anxiety. He couldn't let the little princess leave like this. The city gates were already closed and she couldn't leave at all. It was also possible that she would fall into the eyes of others. Her heart felt like it was being scratched by thousands of ants, so how could she calm down? At this time, Xiao walked into the yard with large steps after receiving the news. Seeing the little fellow's worried expression, his brows slightly knit. Turin has already told me about the situation, so don't worry. Animals are the same as people. They can also get sick. As long as the right medicine is used, they can be cured. These words were like a reassuring pill, easing her anxious mood. Big Ice Cube, I want to see Glutinous Rice Ball. She grabbed his hand as a pleading look appeared in her eyes. She knew that this request was very difficult, but she couldn't control this thought. When Little Annoyance left, he was so assured in leaving the three of them to her. If something happened today and Little Annoyance came back, how would she explain it? It was rare to see her like this. Xiao turned and ordered Hualing, no matter what method you use, bring the Glutinous Rice Ball into the Wang Fu. Hualing felt his head swell. Bringing such a powerful snow wolf into the city in the middle of the night was like climbing a mountain. Although it's said that the young princess consort is confused because of her concern, Master. Why are you fooling around with her? But he didn't dare to say this out loud. They had to do whatever their master told them to do. Even if there was no road ahead, they had to find a way out. Hualing gave the order to Dove Feather, and then quickly led people out to provide support. The two of them sat in the room and Chu Qingyan was worried. Big Ice Cube, do you think Hualing and the others can bring the Glutinous Rice Ball in? Glutinous Rice Ball is the smallest of the three. Although it is more delicate than its two older brothers, it has never been sick in a long time. I really can't calm down. Seeing the person he cared about the most get angry for someone else, even if it was a pet, Xiao couldn't help feeling a bit jealous. However, he could understand her feelings. Although the little fellow had a straightforward personality, she was very meticulous and was very good to the people around her. As long as it was someone or something she cared about, she would treat it wholeheartedly. How could he not feel pity for such a kind person? He pulled her into his embrace and gently stroked her back as he comforted her. It's fine, you'll be able to see it later. When one was worried and couldn't see or touch something, they would be even more restless. The little fellow was like this. She snuggled up to him as she gazed out of the courtyard. Time passed bit by bit, and 2 hours passed. Suddenly there was a commotion outside. Chu Qingyan stood up in shock, and Xiao followed her gaze and looked out. At this time, Hualing was holding something in his hand. It was covered in a black cloth as he walked over with steady steps. Master, little princess, as expected, Glutinous Rice Ball is here. After saying this, the black cloth was removed and the dying Glutinous Rice Ball appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Chu Qingyan immediately came forward and stroked the Glutinous Rice Ball's head with heartache. It was burning hot and she exclaimed, "This? The doctor said it has a high fever. Take it down to treat it first." Xiao ordered in a deep voice. Hualing immediately carried it to the next room. and the doctor in the yard was also brought over. Chu Qingyan also wanted to follow, but she was pulled back by the person beside her. She turned her head with a questioning gaze. "Don't worry, it'll be fine." Xiao Su squeezed her hand and then let go of her. She nodded gratefully and then left the room. When she arrived, the doctor was already feeding the glutinous rice ball medicine. However, it was unknown whether it was the instinct of a beast or some other reason. But the glutinous rice ball kept its mouth shut. No matter what he did, it would not open its mouth. As a result, the medicinal soup could not be fed, let alone the pills. The doctor was helpless, but the people standing next to him were all cold and aggressive. His hands trembled, and the medicinal soup spilled. At this time, a pair of slender and beautiful hands took his medicine bowl and said in a gentle voice, "Let me do it." As if he had been pardoned, the doctor immediately retreated. Looking at the little girl's benevolent countenance, as if she could make a decision, he trembled as he reported the situation. "This guy is allergic to pollen and has a poor appetite. Coupled with the rain from 2 days ago, he fell ill immediately. Otherwise, with such a big body, there wouldn't be any injuries at all. Can this illness be cured?" Chu Qingyan asked in a worried voice. The doctor shook his head. "It's a bit late now. Feed it the medicine first. It'll be fine if the fever goes down, but if it doesn't go down by tonight..." "What will happen if it doesn't go down by tonight?" Her heart was filled with worry. The doctor looked at her and carefully said, "Have you seen a child with a high fever that won't go down and then become confused? Then become confused after growing up? It might also become like this." Chu Qingyan was instantly stunned. Become stupid? She gritted her teeth. No, she definitely couldn't let the glutinous rice ball become like this. She calmed her heart and squatted down in front of it. She tried to use a cheerful tone to say, "Glutinous rice ball, I'm here to feed you something good to eat." Glutinous rice ball was in a state of alert. When the doctor approached, its entire body tensed up. Now that its mistress was near, it seemed to be able to sense a familiar aura. Gradually, it relaxed its fur. Chu Qingyan reached out to stroke its head, and it became obedient. She took the opportunity to feed it the medicine. One mouthful after another, it went very smoothly. The doctor on the side was shocked. This fellow really understands human nature. Hualing and the others looked at each other. Of course, this fellow had been struggling the entire time, not willing to be carried back. If it wasn't for them saying that it could see the little princess, it wouldn't have been so quiet and obedient. After feeding it the entire bowl, Chu Qingyan anxiously asked, "Doctor, is there anything else we need to do?" The doctor stroked his long beard and said, "It'll depend on luck." Chapter 1174. The doctor's words made her feel very uncertain, and she didn't dare to leave the glutinous rice ball. The glutinous rice ball unconsciously hummed on the bed. The sound was very weak, but it could be felt that it was very uncomfortable. Stroking the tangled hair on its body, Chu Qingyan coaxed it in a low voice. "Be good, get better quickly. I'll give you a bath." But the glutinous rice ball still didn't have any reaction. She could only sigh helplessly and anxiously. Because the glutinous rice ball was suddenly brought back, some secret methods were used. Xiao Su had just gone to deal with the aftermath to prevent people from using it as an excuse. When he finished, it was already the middle of the night. He walked into the yard. "Where's the princess?" Hualing, who was standing guard outside, immediately replied, "Little princess is still inside keeping her company." Xiao Su nodded and turned to enter the room. When he looked up, he saw the person sleeping on the edge of the bed. His gaze swept over her tired face and he walked over. He reached out to carry her back to the room. When he moved, the person who couldn't sleep soundly slowly opened her eyes. Seeing him, she immediately sat up and rubbed her eyes. "What time is it now?" 1 in the afternoon. Xiao Su paused. "Go back and rest first. It's fine to send someone to keep watch here." She shook her head. "No need, I'll leave it here. You still have morning court tomorrow, so go back and rest first. I can do it alone." With her like this, how could he sleep peacefully? He pulled over a chair to sit with her and wait. Seeing her insist on urging him to leave, he gave a low laugh. In the past, it was normal to not sleep for days on the battlefield. This isn't anything. I'll stay with you tonight. His sour eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Generally, people in high positions like them would not have any compassion for animals, let alone take care of them as if they were family or friends when they were injured or sick. They would only feel that it was a waste of time, energy and feelings. But the big ice cube was different from them. He never felt that what she did was unreasonable. He would think from her point of view, put himself in her shoes, love what she loved, think what she thought, and never doubted her because of their different views. How short was life? How many people had passed by one's side? To be able to meet such a person who could tolerate you no matter when, where and what happened, was the most precious happiness in this world. Seeing that her big eyes were wet, Xiao thought that it was because she was too worried about glutinous rice ball. He could not help but laugh and pull her into his arms. What's there to cry about? Glutinous rice ball is still lying there. You have to believe in the resilience of wolves, especially the descendants of the Snow Wolf King. Their vitality is far stronger than we think. She nodded heavily against his shoulder. After another 2 hours, that doctor was dragged over by Hualing. His eyes were hazy, but he did not dare throw a tantrum. He obediently went forward to take glutinous rice ball's pulse and feel her limbs. Very quickly, the sleepiness in his eyes disappeared and he happily said, very good, the fever is gone. Chu Qingyan finally felt relieved. So you're saying that he's fine now? Xiao asked coldly. The doctor trembled in fear from this question and quickly replied, as long as he's fed a few bowls of cold repellent and allergy medicine, he should be able to recover in 2 or 3 days. Chu Qingyan seriously listened. Although the doctor was very scared, his words were very calm. It could be seen that glutinous rice ball was already out of danger as her entire body relaxed. The doctor was taken away, and there was only Chu Qingyan and Xiao left in the room. She squatted down in front of the bed and reached out to pat glutinous rice ball's head. She gently said, you really are good. You have to get better soon. I'll have people prepare a lot of delicious food for you. Xiao lowered his head and took in her gentle and elegant demeanor. He reached out and stroked her head, the corners of his mouth gentle. The next morning, Chu Qingyan had just woken up when she heard the commotion in the courtyard. She slept late last night, and her head still hurt a little. She couldn't help but struggle to get up and ask Xining, who pushed the door open, who's outside? Xining walked over with a basin of water. It's first old Master Chu. He knew about glutinous rice ball's illness, so he rushed over in a hurry. He's now in the room talking to glutinous rice ball. She rubbed her temples. It happened so suddenly and in the middle of the night, so it wasn't convenient for her to inform her father. However, he knew about it now, but based on how much her father doted on these little ones, she couldn't tell how much her father's heart ached right now. As expected, when she walked to the door, she heard her father's self-reproachful voice. Glutinous rice ball, I didn't take good care of you and caused you to be bedridden. You have to get better quickly, or else how can I face your mother? I promise you when you're better, I'll take you fishing. I'll eat the fish and you'll eat the bones. Look, I'm so good to you. So you have to get better quickly. What the hell was her father talking about? Chu Qingyan coughed lightly and stepped into the door. Her father turned his head when he heard the sound, and immediately rushed over with tears in his eyes. Kai glutinous rice ball is sick. Daddy feels like I'm sick too. I don't have any strength. She supported her father, her scalp tingling as she said, that's because you haven't had breakfast yet. As she spoke, she turned around. Huang Yi, who was following behind her, brought in their breakfast with a few servants. Chu Qingyan's father rubbed his eyes and chuckled. I was in too much of a hurry just now and didn't have time to eat. Now that you mention it, Daddy is really hungry. She laughed and shook her head, then pushed her father to sit down and eat. She walked to the bed to check on glutinous rice ball. At this moment, glutinous rice ball had already woken up, but its eyes were half closed and it looked very lethargic. However, when it saw its beloved master, it would try its best to wag its tail. It looked so obedient that it made one's heart ache. She bent down and touched its head. It was at a normal temperature, and it didn't look like it was getting sick again. Glutinous rice ball stuck out its tongue and licked her hand, whimpering weakly. She smiled gently and comforted it. At this moment, A drumstick appeared in her vision, followed by her father's voice. Look, look, it's a big drumstick. Get better quickly, and I'll let you eat it. It smells so good. It's so delicious. Looking at her father, who looked like a big bad wolf trying to tempt a little white rabbit, Chu Qingyan felt that it was funny. Glutinous rice ball rolled its eyes at him very plaintively. Great old master, I'm already in enough pain, please don't add insult to injury. On this day, Hong Yi's heart couldn't help but beat faster when she saw that there was no movement after she had poisoned the food. She went to the kitchen to ask around and found out that there was a rare guest in the courtyard who was being taken care of by Chu Qingyan. So she didn't have time to take care of her body. However, Lord had already instructed the kitchen to brew some nutritious tonics for her, so the kitchen was in full swing preparing today. Whether it was making soup or cooking, red dates were all seasonings, so she wasn't afraid that she wouldn't be able to use them. After hearing this news, Hong Yi left in satisfaction. Chapter 1175. Even though Xiao Su had protected the inner courtyard, so that not even a drop of water could leak out, the addition of a giant animal in the courtyard had more or less aroused the curiosity and speculation of the servants. It was just that other than Xi Ning and Bai Yu, no one was able to get close to that room. Everyone was curious, but they didn't dare to violate their prince's rules. Wolves were rare in places where humans lived in groups. If people found out that they had a wolf in captivity, and that it was a snow wolf with a noble bloodline, not only would it alarm those curious people, it would even alarm the Sichuan emperor. This was the so-called treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. After glutinous rice ball's fever subsided, Chu Qingyan took good care of it. After she personally fed it 2 doses of medicine, glutinous rice ball's spirit improved greatly. However, it still lay weakly all day long, but compared to its previous state of being on the verge of death, it was already much better. In the evening, the weather was not so hot, and glutinous rice ball could move around. It was lying in her arms and acting coquettishly. At this time, Xiao, who had been busy for the past few days, appeared in front of her. I was wondering why the security outside was so tight. It turns out that they're hiding a treasure. As soon as she entered the door, Xiao unceremoniously drank a large pot of water. She was travel-worn, but her small face was radiant and looked very pleasing to the eye. Chu Qingyan teased glutinous rice ball, while looking up and smiling. It can't be helped. Its existence is too special. When it recovers, I'll send it back. By the way, why did you come back so early today? Xiao walked over and asked about glutinous rice ball. However, when she was stroking its fur, she heard her friend's words and could not help but roll her eyes. It's such a hot day, and I'm so busy that I'm like charcoal. It's not easy for me to come back early today. It's fine if you don't comfort me, but you actually ask me why I'm back so early? Am I born to be a laborer? Can't you have some compassion? Chu Qingyan immediately raised her hands in surrender. Okay, I was wrong. May I ask if you're tired today, big boss? Do you need this little one to serve you? Come massage my shoulders. Massage my legs. Xiao sat on the chair like a master and patted his shoulder, waiting for her to serve him. Chu Qingyan gave her a playful shove. You're really like a dye house. Xiao was pushed back by her. She twisted her waist and leaned against her like a clingy little animal. The soft body under her hands made Xiao sigh. You're indeed the land of warmth and tenderness. No wonder the King of England fell in love with you even though there are so many fresh flowers outside. Chu Qingyan shook her head helplessly. Seriously, how are the sales of the products recently? Upon hearing this, Xiao seemed to have been hit on her laughing acupoint. She threw her head back and laughed wildly. Glutinous rice ball, who was at the side, was quite frightened by her. She patted Chu Qingyan's shoulder and was overjoyed. Let me tell you, it's like making a fortune every day. The flow of people is like a torrential river, endless. Chu Qingyan was dumbfounded. What kind of idiom was she using? After her craziness, Xiao became a little more serious. She leaned against the back of the chair calmly. The recent account book hasn't been sent to you yet, so you definitely don't know about the recent sales situation. It's basically sold out as soon as it's on the shelves. You don't know, but our products are in a state of shortage every day. I'm here today to ask you if you want to increase the production scale. Chu Qingyan was stunned. She knew that these products could make money, but she didn't expect that they would be sold out like this. It's actually popular to this extent? That's right. Hua Xiaoli leaned over and chuckled. The capital is the hub of the country. The people in the upper echelons here have a lot of connections in their hands. Moreover, their words and deeds will have a driving effect, causing the people below to follow suit. The business we've been doing recently isn't just targeted at individuals. It's basically a family or a mansion. You also know that there are many women in the backyard. As long as the entire mansion buys from us, we'll make a lot of money just by doing this. Moreover, there are already many people who are buying and shipping to other towns. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but grin. In that case, it's time for us to open a branch. That's right. Now is the best time to open up a channel. Just now, when we talked about increasing the production scale, it's secondary. Our main problem is that we need someone to take on this heavy responsibility. You know, the location and the source of the goods aren't important. What's important is that we need someone to take care of things. If we don't have an outstanding manager, we won't be able to achieve the effect at all. It's better to have nothing than to have something substandard. Hua Xiaoli talked about business clearly and logically. She was no longer as jumpy as before. Chu Qingyan agreed with her words. After pondering for a moment, she said, "How about this? When Big Ice Cube comes back, I'll ask him if he can pick a few from Jinling's subordinates." That's great. When husband and wife do business, it'll be twice the result with half the effort. Hua Xiaoli winked at her and smiled. Chu Qingyan glared at her fiercely. Thus, the two of them began to discuss which city to start expanding from. Although the two of them were not very old, and in Jingdo, they were about the same age as those 15 or 16-year-old unmarried girls who were as beautiful as flowers and jade, and did not know the hardships of the world. However, they were already as experienced as veterans in the business world. Their actions were thorough and their thinking was meticulous. It was hard to imagine that such outstanding-looking girls already had a huge chain of capital behind them. The two of them talked in full swing for a long time and their mouths were dry. At this time, Xining and Jasper each came in with a bowl of ice-white fungus and red date soup. "Because you came just in time. I'm hungry." Hua Xiaoli immediately waved at them and said impatiently. Chu Qingyan saw her impatient look and couldn't help but laugh. "You can eat later. Let the ice melt a little. That way, it'll have a refreshing taste." "That's reasonable." Hua Xiaoli wasn't in a hurry anymore. She held her chin and suddenly said, "Qingyan, are we like what you said? We can clearly rely on our looks to make a living, but we have to rely on our talents." Chu Qingyan expressed her disdain for a certain person who was sticking gold on her face. At this time, she noticed that glutinous rice ball on the bed had been looking at her with pitiful eyes. It seemed that she had neglected it when she was discussing business with Hua Xiaoli. She immediately sat down by the bed apologetically and comforted it. "This pet of yours has turned into a spirit," Hua Xiaoli joked. Although she had seen a few of her good friend's pets, she wasn't familiar with most of them. Seeing this scene now, it was a bit novel. "Animals can understand humans," Chu Qingyan said gently. Hua Xiaoli nodded, expressing her understanding. At this time, Xining handed the red dates soup to her master. Chu Qingyan reached out to receive it. Just at this time, glutinous rice ball raised its chin and placed it on her bent elbow. With a heavy weight, she couldn't hold the bowl, and the entire soup bowl fell to the ground. Glutinous rice ball realized that it had caused trouble, and immediately lowered its head and whimpered. Chu Qingyan didn't mind and prepared to let Xining clean up the floor. Suddenly Jasper exclaimed, "Master, look at the floor." Chu Qingyan immediately looked down. There was a green leaf that had floated in from outside the window in the soup that was scattered all over the floor. At this time, it was turning black at a speed visible to the naked eye. She instantly raised her voice. "Don't touch that soup in Hua Xiaoli, it's poisonous." Chapter 1176. As soon as she said this, Hua Xiaoli, who was about to reach out to take the bowl, froze in place in fright. Jasper squatted down to test the poison with a silver needle. The moment the silver needle touched the soup, The entire needle turned black. Jasper said with a grave expression, "Master, although this subordinate doesn't know what poison this is, it is extremely toxic. I'm afraid that once it touches you, you will immediately die." "What's the situation? Someone poisoned you?" Hua Xiuli asked in a small voice as she approached Chu Qingyan in a panic. "It looks like it." Chu Qingyan's expression was a bit dark, and her charming face was cold. Hua Xiuli's face was a bit green. "That's strange. Did you make any enemies? Why would someone poison you for no reason?" Chu Qingyan shook her head. She also didn't know who wanted to kill her. She ordered in a low voice, "Xining, call Turan in. Don't make this matter public first." This unforeseen event made everyone present gasp. At this time, Xining received the order and went out without another word. While waiting, time was long. Hua Xiuli and Jasper didn't know what she was going to do next. The atmosphere was a bit cold. Chu Qingyan silently looked out the window. After a moment, she reached out to stroke Glutinous Riceball's head and softly said with a smile, "Glutinous Riceball, you did really well just now." If it wasn't for Glutinous Riceball's interruption, she might have already gone to see the King of Hell. Snow foxes understood human nature. Glutinous Riceball could feel the fluctuations in her master's emotions. She couldn't help sticking out her tongue and rubbing her fingers, as if she was comforting her, telling her not to be sad. In the blink of an eye, Turan quickly followed Xining into the room. The moment he entered, he felt the unusual atmosphere in the room. The relaxed expression on his face quickly disappeared. He walked in front of Chu Qingyan and asked with a serious expression, "Little Princess Consort, why are you looking for this subordinate?" "Turan, there are ghouls in the mansion," Chu Qingyan said with a serious expression. Jasper told him what had happened just now. Turan was stunned and his face gradually turned ugly. The security of the prince's mansion was in charge of his secret guards. Last time when his master was drugged, he had increased the number of people guarding every corner. He did not expect that someone would take advantage of the loophole this time. His gaze fell on the porcelain bowl that had been knocked over on the ground, and a lingering fear surged in his heart. The person who had poisoned the young Princess Consort's life. If he had not discovered it in time, then at this moment, he did not dare to think of the consequences. Based on his master's temperament, he would not let this matter go so easily. Turan bowed his head and asked, "What do you plan to do now, Your Highness?" Something had happened, but she had kept it a secret. She had called him in alone without alerting anyone else. He had a faint guess that the young Princess Consort had a plan at this time. "That's right." Chu Qingyan stood and walked in front of him, her expression serious. "This matter could be hidden from your secret guard's surveillance. This person is either very skilled or very skilled in disguise. When they poisoned the princess, they did not leave any traces. If we investigate with great fanfare, we will only alert the enemy. Rather than wait for them to come, it is better to take the initiative." In these months, she had restrained her edge, put away her claws, and dutifully acted as the little rice worm of the King of England's consort. But there was someone who did not let her go. Her brows rose, and her eyes flashed with a sharp light. "If people do not offend me, I will not offend them. If people offend me, I will not let them go." Turan felt the person in front of him suddenly change. It was different from her usual reserved aura, but it made him have the illusion that he could not help but lower his head. "As Your Highness commands." "Good, let's do it like this." 15 minutes later. Not good, someone come. The Princess Consort has fainted." The tightly shut door was suddenly opened from the inside. Xining ran out in a panic. She cried as she shouted, her voice penetrating. The people in the yard did not know what had happened, but seeing Xining, the highest-ranking first-rank Yahuan of the Princess Consort, so panicked, a few words floated above everyone's head. Something big had happened. Very quickly the entire yard boiled. Hong Yi had been waiting in her room. She knew that the lotus seed would appear in front of Chu Qingyan in the next few days. What she could do was to prepare an alibi for herself before it happened. When it was investigated, she would not be afraid of being suspected. At this moment, she heard Zhao Zhao mumbling outside. Her heart skipped a beat. Had they succeeded? She was excited and immediately opened the door. At this time, A servant passed by with a panicked expression. She immediately opened her mouth and pretended to be at a loss as she asked, "Xiao, what happened?" Xiaoqing's face was full of anxiety. "Hongyi Jiejie, something bad has happened. The princess consort suddenly fainted. Right now, everyone is looking for a doctor in the city." Hongyi was pleasantly surprised. Sure enough, it was effective. But she could not show it. She was also frightened. Then let's quickly go and see if there's anything we can help with. At this time, she had to go and investigate the situation. When Hongyi walked into the yard, she saw doctors coming in and out. They came in a hurry and left with pale faces. At this time, a doctor staggered out. Hongyi acted like she was protecting her master and went up to greet him. "Doctor, how is my princess consort?" That doctor shook his head with a grave expression. Then he sighed and walked towards the door of the yard. At this time, another two doctors came out together and whispered, "It's a pity so young." Hong Yi's eyes lit up. It seemed that she had been poisoned. She was secretly happy, but her face was full of worry. Although that person had said that the poisoned person would immediately go to the Yellow Springs when he gave her the medicine, now it seemed that it would not be that quick. Perhaps it was related to the dosage of the medicine. But she viciously thought, if she could torture Chu Qingyan before she died, why not? At this time, she really wanted to go in and see how Chu Qingyan struggled before she died. It was a pity that the door was completely surrounded. She did not even have a chance to get close. "What do you mean you're the best doctor in the capital? You can't even treat an illness." Xining's flustered and exasperated voice came from the room. Jasper reprimanded her. "It's no use for you to be anxious now. Lord has not returned yet. Our people can't enter the palace to call for an imperial doctor. Don't make any more trouble." Xining felt very wronged. "Then what do we do? Master's situation is not looking good." "Be quiet. Don't spread the news right now. I've already sent people to find His Highness and have His Highness call for an imperial doctor from the palace. We'll just have to see if Master can hold on for this period of time." Jasper's voice was also trembling. It was clear that she was holding on. Hearing the intermittent sounds coming from the room, Hong Yi's lips slowly curled up. Very good, everything was going smoothly. These two girls who hadn't even grown their hair, yet were completely unable to hold up the situation at this time. When Lord came back, he would probably only see Chu Qingyan's corpse. This was really satisfying. Chapter 1177. When Xiao Su returned to the Wangfu with a gloomy face, the entire Wangfu was in a mess. Hualing followed behind him. When he saw this scene, he unconsciously looked at his master. Today, his master had been asked to stay by His Majesty to discuss some matters. He had stayed for the entire day. As soon as he left the palace, he was stopped by the servants waiting outside. They said that the young Wang Fei had suddenly fainted. His master's expression immediately changed. He pulled a horse from the side and quickly rushed back. No one could catch up. This was the first time he had seen his master panic. He didn't have his usual calm appearance at all. On the way back, his master's expression was tense. His face was so dark that it could drip water. When he came back, the steward and the others waiting outside didn't know anything about the young Wang Fei's illness. Only the doctors on the road carried their medicine boxes and sighed as they left. This strange atmosphere made his master's head become gloomy again. Hualing didn't know until today that his master, who was omnipotent, also had a day when he was afraid. In his heart, he hoped that the young Wang Fei would be fine. But the scene in front of him, Hualing felt like his heart was being pulled. "I heard that the steward has already invited the best doctors in the capital, but they can't do anything about the Wang Fei's illness." "That's right. They can't do anything, but they've already invited all the doctors they can. Do you think the Wang Fei will? The words "beautiful women have a short life" suddenly stopped when they saw Lord standing there coldly. The servant girls were so scared that their legs turned to jelly, and they immediately knelt down. "Send these people away and sell them." Xiao Su expressionlessly walked past the gossiping servants and left this sentence. Hualing looked at the servants who instantly turned pale and shook his head. They should never have crossed his master's bottom line. The person inside was his master's life. At this time, Xiao Su had already walked to Chu Qingyan's courtyard. At this time, the door was closed and Turin had sent people to guard outside. Seeing him come back, Turin immediately went up to greet him. Master. Before he could finish speaking, Xiao Su had already brushed past him, pushed open the door, and entered somewhat impatiently. Turin was stunned. Then he looked at Hualing. Hualing sighed. Master has been like this the entire journey. That's right. What is the princess consort situation now? Turin was even more confused. Didn't the people we sent tell you clearly? Hualing was also stunned. Say what? Turin's face twitched. That's bad. After entering, Xiao Su went straight to the bed. Just on the way, his rationality left him and his mind was in a mess. He thought that he would come back to see the pale and dying little fellow, but when he looked up, he saw the little face talking and laughing with someone. It was as if he was told that there was a cliff in front of him, but he couldn't control himself and rushed forward. When he reached the edge of the cliff, he was caught by a branch on the side. Chu Qingyan heard the sound and looked over. Seeing that it was him, she couldn't help but grin. You're back. He didn't get a response after he finished speaking. She saw him standing there like a rock, not moving at all. The expression on his face was a bit strange. Hua Xiaoli, Jasper, and the others who were chatting with her in the room noticed his strange expression and tactfully prepared to leave. Before Hua Xiaoli left, she winked at her. You've gone too far. Faced with her good friend's teasing, she couldn't refute. After the door was closed, she stood up from the bed and walked towards him with a nervous heart. Big Ice Cube, are you all right? When she arrived in front of him, she was pulled into his embrace by a strong force. Her head bumped into his hard chest and she was stunned for a moment, but the force that followed was so strong that she couldn't breathe. Following that, a storm of kisses fell down. She was forced to raise her head to withstand the waves in his heart. She felt the iron-like hand on her waist with a scorching temperature, as if it was going to burn her skin. Every time they went deeper, it was accompanied by the trembling of their souls. They were grinding and entangling with each other. Over and over again, he didn't allow her to retreat. He swept through all of her territory forcefully, as if he wanted to use this method to repeatedly confirm that the person in front of him was still alive and well. At first, she wasn't ready, but after feeling the strong uneasiness from his body, she didn't reject him anymore. She reached out her hands to hug him back. If it wasn't for her entire body leaning on him, she would have collapsed to the ground. This seemed to be the first time she saw such a big ice cube who didn't care about anything. At this moment, she finally understood the meaning behind Hua Xiaoli's words. It wasn't easy for him to let her go. She opened her mouth to explain, but she heard a hoarse voice murmur, "It's good that you're fine. It's good that you're fine." At that moment, a certain place in the depths of her heart seemed to have been hit hard by someone. It was sore and warm. Tears welled up in her eyes as she choked on her sobs. "I'm fine, I'm not poisoned," she quickly explained, afraid that he would worry too much. Her heart that had been suspended in midair fell back to the ground. Xiao Su raised his head. His dark eyes were like a layer of glass, blocking the surging waves below. This pair of eyes, even if emotionless, was still moving. Moreover, they were filled with emotions. What happened? He knew that there must be a reason for this. At this moment, the warmth of the person in his arms made him feel at ease and his rationality returned. Only then did he have the heart to ask her what happened. She was bewitched by his eyes just now, and when she heard his magnetic and hoarse voice, she almost fell into a daze again. Fortunately, she kept her infatuated heart and told him what happened today in a concise and comprehensive manner. When she told him, she avoided the important points and only mentioned the toxicity of the poison. The other party is in the dark while we're in the light. This is very disadvantageous for us. If we want to find this person and prevent future troubles, we have to lure the snake out of its hole. So I plan to beat them at their own game and pretend that I'm really poisoned, then lure them in. After telling him her plan, she looked at his expression and then stammered, "I didn't let anyone inform you in advance because I wanted to create an effect for the acting. I didn't expect your reaction to be so big." Xiao Su didn't care about what she said at the end. His gaze fell on her as deep as water. His eyes were pitch black, making people unable to see what he was thinking. If he wanted to kill someone, just one drop was enough. If that bowl of soup wasn't accidentally knocked over by the glutinous rice ball, then his little fellow would have already. She wanted to wait for his criticism, but she didn't want to be hugged by him again. Only this time, she felt that the hand around her seemed to be trembling. Big Ice Cube, are you okay? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have kept it from you and made you worried. She was a little regretful and said hurriedly, but he hugged her even harder. Ian, do you know what it means to survive a disaster? She was stunned. Just now I experienced it. Survive a disaster. Chapter 1178. The news that Chu Qingyan was seriously ill and unconscious spread through the Wangfu not long after. Xiao Su's face was as dark as water, causing the entire Wangfu's atmosphere to become gloomy. Everyone was careful with their words and actions, afraid of offending this king of hell. They were just like the previous servants who were chased out of the Wangfu for gossiping. All the doctors in the capital had been invited, but no one had a solution. Now the imperial doctors from the imperial hospital had also come, but they all kept their mouths shut and did not leak any information. The people in the Wangfu were afraid that they would be implicated, but they were also curious. What kind of illness did the princess consort have that caused the entire yard to be sealed off? Only the two head maidservants, Xining and Jasper, were allowed in and out. No one else could even approach. The news that the princess consort did not have much time to live spread through the Wangfu. Because of this matter, the Wangfu was sealed off and no one could leave the Fu, so no one discovered it. This matter only caused waves in the Wangfu, but there was no news outside. We need 2 new faces to play the role of the imperial doctors. Turin said to Huiling. Huiling scratched his head. I've already used up most of the people here. I'll pull out a few from your side. You'll all be in the dark anyway. No one will recognize you. Turin looked deeply at him. Huiling swallowed and complained. I knew you were petty. All right, I'll call them myself. After Huiling left, Turin vigilantly observed his surroundings. The young princess consort had told him to pay attention to any suspicious people lingering nearby. Compared to the panic outside, the room was filled with harmony and joy. Glutinous rice ball's body had mostly recovered, and was currently circling around its mistress. It was full of vitality and did not look like it was on the verge of death 2 days ago. Is there any movement outside? Chu Qingyan asked Jasper, who was standing on the side. Jasper replied truthfully, when the news of you falling ill spread, it caused quite a stir outside. Everyone is guessing the cause of your illness. Recently, Huiling has begun to investigate suspicious people. Everyone in the Fu is in danger, and has been more careful. Chu Qingyan nodded. All right, that's the effect I want. Because Xiao Su strongly requested that she handle this matter herself, Xiao Su promised not to interfere with her plan. However, his request was that she could not leave his sight before finding the person who poisoned her. At this moment he was sitting behind a desk. Although he was holding a book in his hand, his eyes never left the person leaning against the window. Chu Qingyan also noticed that since she came back yesterday, Big Ice Cube had been following her closely, as if he was afraid that she would suddenly disappear. This made her feel both helpless and touched. At this moment, Glutinous Rice Ball left her side and squatted in front of him, tilting its head to look at him. Xiao Su glanced at it, put down the book, took the dried meat on the plate, and slowly tore it into strips to feed it. Chu Qingyan rested her chin on her hand. The scene of a big ice cube being fed to a glutinous rice ball was indescribably heart-wrenching. Big Ice Cube, I feel that you're especially homely like this. And a good homely man. Xiao Su glanced at her. I'm not usually homely? She shot herself in the foot. She hurriedly smiled fawningly. No, we're all homely. Glutinous rice ball chewed on the dried meat, and tilted its head to look at its master. Its eyes were bright, as if saying, Master, how can you be so weak? You're the master of our Snow Wolf clan. Sensing Glutinous Rice Ball's disdainful gaze, Chu Qingyan was crying in her heart. She didn't want to either. Xiao Su retracted his gaze, and calmly fed Glutinous Rice Ball another piece. He was in a good mood. At this moment, Jasper asked from the side, Master, it's already been a day. Are we still going to continue waiting? Chu Qingyan restrained her expression and nodded without hesitation. Continue waiting. The other party wants my life. If I'm not dead yet, she will definitely make a move. Xiao Su nodded when he heard that. There was a trace of coldness in his voice. As long as this person is still in the fu, she will appear again. Chu Qingyan did not comment. She thought for a moment and turned to say to the big ice cube, "Have Fire Spirit and Turin help me pass on a message." Xiao Su nodded with a frown. It was as the two of them had thought. Hong Yi had been waiting in the room for the news of Chu Qingyan's death from poison. She had been excited at the beginning, but now she was anxious and impatient. She paced back and forth in the room, feeling uneasy. Could it be that there was a problem with the medicine? Logically speaking, even if she did not die immediately from the poison, she would not last for more than 2 hours. But looking at the situation now, it was already beyond her expectations. She had already sent out the letter, but there was still no news. Would the Empress be able to fulfill her promise? Her heart started to feel uneasy and she hated Chu Qingyan even more. Why didn't she die yet? She really was tenacious. When a person reached a certain point, they would start to distort. Hong Yi was like this at this moment. Suddenly, a dart flew in from outside the window. She quickly caught it, and then quickly walked to the window. There was no one outside, so she lowered her head and took down the paper on the dart to read. Master said, "I want to see the person if she's alive, and the corpse if she's dead." There was a plum blossom mark on the bottom of the paper. This was the secret signal between her and the Empress. Hong Yi clenched the paper in her hand and revealed a vicious expression. "Have you heard? The imperial doctor from the palace is very skilled and said that he can save the princess consort's life. As long as the princess consort survives tonight, she will wake up." "Yes, I also heard about it. You didn't see that the security in the courtyard is not so strict. That's because the Lord's mood has improved a lot. He ordered the guards to withdraw and rest. The princess consort's illness came so suddenly. Isn't my cousin helping Dr. Shun to get the medicine? Dr. Shun said that if it continues to drag on, he will have to prepare for the princess consort's funeral." After staying in the room for a while, Hong Yi came out to inquire about the news. She didn't expect to hear about it so quickly. She looked at the maidservants gathered in the corridor, and her face became gloomy. Didn't that person tell her that there was no cure for this poison? How can there be someone who can detoxify it? Hong Yi gritted her teeth and hated herself. She really can't do anything right. Chu Qingyan has already stepped into the palace of the King of Hell. She didn't expect that someone could pull her back. Baiji turned her head and looked at the closed door of the courtyard. Her heart was somewhat conflicted. Should she let her go or not? After a while, Baiji clenched her fists. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If she let her escape, it will be more difficult to kill her in the future. Baiji was not a reckless person, but in order to stay by the Lord's side and become his woman, even if there was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire in front of her, she will break through it. Hong Yi turned around and walked away with firm steps. Chapter 1179. Nightfall. Outside, the third watch sounded and everything was quiet. A figure appeared on the roof like a ghost. The black figure crouched down and stared at Chu Qingyan's courtyard. In the courtyard, there were guards patrolling back and forth. But because they hadn't rested for 2 days, most of them looked tired and yawned from time to time. The black shadow seized the opportunity and flipped over the wall. Then he jumped onto the tallest tree in the courtyard. Finally, he took advantage of the fact that the guards were listlessly taking turns to land on the ground. Then he flashed under the window and gently pushed the window open. With a leap, he entered the room in a beautiful arc and closed the window. Everything happened so fast that no one could react in time. The black figure stood still in the room and scanned the surroundings. Other than the person on the bed, there were no other maids around. This was simply the heavens helping her. That's right, she was Hong Yi. The Hong Yi who hid her martial arts skills. At this moment, she was looking at the bed covered by the veil with a smug and hateful gaze. Tonight, success or failure depended on this one move. She couldn't be more familiar with this room. So in the darkness, she walked towards the bed. Because of the luminous pearl placed on the bedside, a faint glow spread in all directions. illuminating the beautiful face of the person on the bed. Hong Yi lifted the veil and saw the scene of this pearl beauty. Although she was poisoned and in a coma, her natural beauty couldn't be concealed. She couldn't help but feel a little jealous. So what if you're beautiful? Aren't you still lying on the bed and waiting to be slaughtered by me? Her tone was very harsh, like a poisonous snake spitting out its tongue, coldly and viciously glaring at its prey. She pulled out a dagger from her sleeve and the light from the blade shone on her eyes. She curled her lips and slowly said, Chu Qingyan, you can't blame me. Who asked the Lord to like you? You're so lowly. What right do you have to make the Lord treat you differently? So if you have anything to say, go to hell and say it to the King of Hell. Her gaze landed on Chu Qingyan's jade-like face, and she smiled viciously. Don't worry, I'll disfigure your face and leave your most unique side in Lord's memory. Hong Yi laughed in a low voice, which was indescribably eerie in the dark night. After enjoying the last moments of Chu Qingyan's life and satisfying her despicable heart, Hong Yi raised the dagger and ruthlessly stabbed it into Chu Qingyan's heart with resentment and pleasure. Go to hell. Ah! When the tip of the dagger was less than an inch away from Chu Qingyan's chest, her hand could no longer move. Hong Yi, who had been quietly closing her eyes, suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were clear, and there was no sign of drowsiness. Hong Yi was shocked. She had fallen into a trap. One sitting and one lying down. The two of them looked very harmonious, but when they looked at each other, a storm was brewing. Hong Yi, I didn't expect it to be you. Chu Qingyan was still digesting the words she had just muttered to herself, and her gaze was cold as she looked at her. Although she had been discovered, Hong Yi didn't panic at all. She smiled contemptuously. That's right, it's me. I'm here to take your life. After saying that, she used her other hand to attack Chu Qingyan. Chu Qingyan subconsciously raised her hand to block, and Hong Yi took this opportunity to shake off her grip and retreat a few steps. However, it was at this time that the sound of footsteps came from outside. Soon, the light of the lanterns shone in. Chu Qingyan lifted the blanket from the couch and stood up. Her gaze was as calm as water as she looked at her. Hong Yi, you've already been surrounded. Surrender yourself. Hong Yi looked around. Outside the window, at the entrance, there were many lit torches. A group of people had surrounded the entire courtyard, and the person in the lead was the person she had been thinking about for a long time. Surrender myself? Could it be that you're going to let me go? Chu Qingyan, I'm not a 3-year-old child. If I surrender, I won't be able to live. Hong Yi pointed her dagger at her and said with a fake smile, I heard that your martial arts were personally taught by Lord. Then let me see it today. Saying that, she made the first move and attacked Chu Qingyan. She actually took the opportunity to attack while they were talking. How despicable. Hualing, Jasper and the others wanted to rush forward, but at this time, Xiao raised his hand to stop them. Let's watch first. Just now the little fellow had given him a signal. Since she wanted to personally take care of her, then he would keep his promise and let her make a move. So in the middle of everyone's encirclement, Hong Yi and Chu Qingyan began to fight. Hong Yi's attacks were very vicious. Her movements were fast and fierce, and her moves were very similar to those of an assassin. Lord seems to be very assured of you. Aren't you afraid that I'll hurt you? Hong Yi sneered as she made her moves. Chu Qingyan held onto her flexible sword and countered every move that came her way. When she heard Gu Ruoyun's words, she subconsciously looked at Gu Ruoyun and realized that when Gu Ruoyun was looking at the big ice cube, her eyes were filled with adoration, love and bitterness. She calmly said, You don't have the ability to hurt me. I'm asking you, who do you belong to? Do you think I'll tell you? Hong Yi rolled her eyes as she asked back. Chu Qingyan ignored the sarcasm in her words and continued to deal with her. Hong Yi, why do you have such a strong hatred towards me? Perhaps the person behind her wanted to kill her, but she could not figure it out. Just how did she offend her? Was it because she was the Big Ice Block's future princess? When she said this, the indifference on Hong Yi's face broke. Her eyes were scarlet red and filled with anger as she looked at the person in front of her, who had shown a kind face from beginning to end. Chu Qingyan, what qualifications do you have to stand by Lord's side? You don't have a rich and noble family. The Chu family is in dire straits, so how can you help Lord in the future? Moreover, your appearance has sapped His Highness's will, causing him to lose interest in the world. You will be a stumbling block for His Highness in the future. What right do you have to act as the mistress of the prince's mansion? Do you know how disgusting you are? The Hongyi in front of Chu Qingyan had a sinister look on her face. She no longer looked as gentle as she used to be. Instead, she looked like a poisonous beauty who was constantly spewing venom. Chu Qingyan's face darkened at her words. So you think I don't have the qualifications to stand by His Highness' side, but you do? Hongyi gave a laugh. I just want to stay by Lord's side and look up to him. So, I want to get rid of you and not let him be affected by you. Chu Qingyan's eyes instantly turned cold. This is what you think is good for him. But you're all doing this for your own selfish reasons, forcing your own ideas onto others. Saying it's good for him, but not asking him what he wants. You're all too selfish. I have nothing else to say to you. She wanted to get information from Hongyi. But the more she heard, the more her heart turned cold. After Chu Qingyan received her blade, she used the force to flip in the air and then fiercely kicked out at her. Hongyi raised her hand to block in a panic, but she was still kicked out of the window and fell out of the courtyard. Chapter 1180. After Hongyi was thrown out, Chu Qingyan landed from the air and put away her sword. Her complexion was not good, because what Hongyi said just now had crossed her bottom line. Her bottom line was Big Ice Cube. In the past, Empress Liang had said that she was doing this for Big Ice Cube's good, and would use her life to force him to help her achieve her goal. This was enough to make her heart turn cold, but because the other party was Big Ice Cube's birth mother and an elder, she could not do anything. But Hongyi was different. She said that she was doing this for Big Ice Cube's good, but she was doing things that harmed others for her own benefit. She could not take this lying down. If everyone thought this way, then wouldn't they be able to use this excuse to help themselves hurt others and make others feel grateful? It was simply too disgusting. In the end, she was too selfish. When Chu Qingyan walked out of the room, her body was filled with killing intent. When Xining and Jasper came up to greet her, they could clearly feel her emotions. The two of them couldn't help looking at each other. What did this Hongyi do to Master? How did Master change from a gentle little girl to a cold-faced witch in the blink of an eye? Seeing the little fellow walk in front of him, Xiao reached out to touch her forehead. There's nothing to be angry about. It's fine as long as we caught the person. He did not know what the two of them had said when they were fighting, but he could see that the little fellow was very unhappy. If the little fellow was unhappy, he would also be unhappy. So Xiao turned around and said to Hualing, "Take her away. No matter what method you use, you have to pry open her mouth." So what if she was a woman? She dared to hurt his little fellow. Even if he had to bear the infamy of bullying women, he would not hesitate. Lord, you can't treat this servant like this. Hongyi was already under control. She spat out a mouthful of blood and her face was a bit pale. Hearing this, she recovered from her dizziness, and her voice was filled with pleading and attachment. This king cannot tolerate betrayal the most. No matter who is behind you, you are no longer someone from the King of England's palace. Xiao coldly said, not even willing to look at her. Hongyi's eyes were red as she cried out, "Lord, Hongyi has always been loyal to you." Xiao coldly looked at her. "When I brought you back from the famine, it was to give you a place to settle down. If you did your job properly, the king's palace would have taken care of you until you were old, but you hid your martial arts and had a vicious heart. You kept causing trouble for Ian. Do you think you are loyal to this king or the master behind you?" Hongyi sat down on the ground. She had been in the king's palace for more than 10 years and knew him the best. At this time, he was frowning even when he looked at her, as if he was a fly. This made her heart feel like it was being torn apart. "Take her away." Xiao did not want to talk to her anymore and directly gave the order. At this time, Chu Qingyan, who had been coldly watching from the side, suddenly stood up. "Wait a minute, I have something to say to her." Xiao did not approve of her being alone with this kind of person, but seeing her determined expression, he waved his hand for them to leave. "I'll wait for you in the room." Chu Qingyan smiled at him and nodded. The big ice cube was always this understanding, knowing that she did not want anyone else to hear her words. Hong Yi, who was immersed in grief and despair, saw that when Chu Qingyan walked over, there was no one around. Her eyes were filled with fear. What do you want to do? You know fear now, but don't you think it's too late? Chu Qingyan stopped 3 steps away from her and looked at her with an indifferent gaze. You want to lynch me? Come, I'm not afraid of you. Hong Yi was like a hedgehog with spikes all over its body as she looked at her with hatred. Lynch. I'm afraid your blood will stain my hands. Chu Qingyan shook her head with a smile. Hong Yi did not understand. Then what do you want to do? Are you mocking me? Hong Yi, I'm staying because I have a few words to say to you. I'm afraid you won't be able to hear it in the future. Chu Qingyan said indifferently. Is that so? I'm all ears. Hong Yi said with a cold smile. Chu Qingyan did not put her arrogance in her eyes as she slowly said. Hong Yi, I think you've tarnished the word like. I feel that it's not worth it for His Highness to be liked by someone like you. You, Hong Yi's eyes turned red with anger. Chu Qingyan did not care at all. I said you were too selfish before because you don't know how to like someone at all. You love yourself more than you love others, so you only think for yourself and never put yourself in other people's shoes. Hong Yi clenched her fists and snorted with a raised brow. You say it like you know a lot. Chu Qingyan, don't be so self-righteous. Chu Qingyan smiled. That day when His Highness was heavily drugged with aphrodisiac, it was your doing, right? The questioning tone and affirmation made Hong Yi's heart clench. Her face darkened. I don't know what you're talking about. Chu Qingyan continued to smile. It's fine if you don't admit it, but I look down on this kind of woman. Giving herself away at all costs is actually a kind of burden for others. Also, not everyone is so greedy for beauty. Saying this, she paused and a trace of pity appeared in her eyes. Hong Yi, your love is too selfish and too lowly. What right do you have to say that about me? Hong Yi hated that her martial arts were not as good as the others. Otherwise, she would have killed the person in front of her at any moment. Seeing her fly into a rage, Chu Qingyan was as calm as before. Do you really think the Empress will accept a woman like you and keep you by His Highness' side? Chu Qingyan, you think you're omnipotent and can obtain everyone's love? I'll tell you, the Empress has always seen you as a thorn in her side. She promised me, as long as I can. Saying this, her voice suddenly stopped. Hong Yi looked dazedly at Chu Qingyan in front of her, who was staring at her like a torch. She was shocked that she had let the cat out of the bag. It really is her. Chu Qingyan's voice turned cold. Hong Yi finally reacted. Were you trying to provoke me just now? To get information from me? Chu Qingyan looked at her without commenting. Do you know why I kept you when you made so many mistakes in the past? Was it to raise a tiger? No, I always felt that there was someone behind you. I didn't think that my intuition was right. Then how did you know it was the Empress? Hong Yi was shocked by her honesty. She suddenly felt that she had never seen through the person in front of her. In the past, she had been blinded by hatred and treated a fox as a little sheep. Or perhaps it was because she didn't want to admit her abilities and subconsciously thought that she wasn't worthy of her master. Actually, among all the women in the capital, she was the most outstanding. Hong Yi seriously looked at Chu Qingyan for the first time. That peerless face with those bright eyes and that red dress that fluttered in the night wind gave people a sacred feeling that couldn't be profaned. This kind of woman really made people jealous. Chapter 1181. You don't need to know. Chu Qingyan smiled faintly at her. There was no mockery or sympathy. It was as if she was just looking at an unimportant person. She made a hand gesture and very quickly, someone came over and carried Hong Yi away. Hong Yi finally felt panic. She looked at Chu Qingyan under the tree, who was so sacred and unapproachable, and the jealousy in her heart surged up again. Chu Qingyan, don't be too proud. One day, there will be someone who will make you beg for death. Chu Qingyan retracted her foot and turned to look at her. Her gaze was as calm as water, but under the moonlight, her entire body was emitting a cold aura, and just a glance was enough to intimidate her. Hong Yi forgot to react in that moment, and Xiao Lai, who was at the side, immediately covered her mouth to prevent her from saying any more disgraceful words. Seeing Hong Yi's angry red eyes, unwilling to be taken away, Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and turned to walk into the room. Xining had already brought people to clean up the room, and when she walked in, everything was restored to its original state. "You didn't make a move?" A voice came from behind the curtain. She paused for a moment, and could vaguely see a broad and tall figure behind the curtain. She thought for a while, then reached out to pull open the curtain and walked to the center of the room. The person who was standing with his back to her slowly turned around and looked at her with a calm expression. The lights outside shone brightly, making his appearance a little blurry, but that pair of black eyes was exceptionally bright. "How did you know?" She stood in front of him, her eyes filled with doubt. She had not shown any intention of wanting Hong Yi's life, so how did the big ice cube see through it? Xiao Su lowered his head and looked into her eyes that were as pure as water. Suddenly, he raised his hand and placed it on top of her head. He sighed and said, "You don't have to show any pity for someone like that. Also, you don't have to do it yourself." When he was talking to Hong Yi, the little fellow stood aside and did not make a sound. In fact, she was having a mental struggle. When she asked him to talk to Hong Yi alone, the emotion that flashed through her eyes was that she could not bear it. He knew her, so he knew what she was struggling with, but he did not say it out loud. No matter what the little fellow wanted to do, he would support her unconditionally. She was stunned. So that was how it was. Her eyes were filled with admiration. "Big Ice Cube, you're too godly. If you were anywhere else, I would have thought that you studied psychology." Xiao Su shook his head and laughed at her exclamation. Then he asked the question in his heart. "Then why don't you do it?" Hearing that, Chu Qingyan was silent for a while before she replied bitterly, "I can't do it. Especially when she mentioned you." The affection in her eyes made me think that she was a girl who was blinded by love and went astray. Xiao Su shook his head. "You're still too soft-hearted. If you let some people go, they might not be grateful to you. They might even hate you even more. This is why people's hearts are hard to fathom." Chu Qingyan puffed up her cheeks and finally sighed. "I admit that you're right. I'll work hard to correct myself in the future." "No need. This is good. You can just be yourself." Xiao Su reached out and pinched her face, his voice filled with affection. Chu Qingyan blushed. "I'm not a child. You don't have to coax me. I'm willing to coax my own wife." Seeing him say this without blushing or skipping a beat, Chu Qingyan felt that she should be shy for him, but she didn't dare to look at him. Woo, her skin was too thin. It wasn't as thick as a big ice cube. "Tell me, why did you suddenly want to take her life? This isn't like you." Xiao Su asked in a low voice. This was what he couldn't understand. The smile on her face froze. She thought that she had already gotten away with it. She didn't think that he would still ask. Her fingers kept twisting. She wasn't good at lying, especially to the big ice cube. She had always told him everything she knew. Now she was a bit panicked. She couldn't tell the big ice cube that the person behind Hong Yi was the Empress, his mother. The reason why she wanted to get rid of Hong Yi was because she didn't want him to know that Hong Yi was a spy that his mother had placed by his side to monitor his every move. If the big ice cube knew that the aphrodisiac was his mother's idea, how would he feel? If he knew that the person who wanted to kill his future wife was his mother who had raised him, how disappointed would he be? Parents, other than their loved ones and children, were the people they loved the most. She knew that the big ice cube and Empress Liang didn't have a good relationship, but after all, they were related by blood. He had always been a filial son. No matter what the Sichuan emperor did to him, he never cared about it because he valued his family. If Hong Yi was alive, her mouth wouldn't be hard enough. Xiao Liqi would pry out those secrets. Then, would the big ice cube experience the betrayal of his family again? She didn't dare to think about it anymore. If she knew earlier, she would have killed her with a sword to prevent future trouble. Just as her expression changed, Xiao Su suddenly said, "Forget it. You naturally have your reasons. I won't ask." The surprise came too suddenly. Chu Qingyan threw herself at him and hugged him. "Long live understanding." Xiao Su smiled and pulled her into his arms. He said in a low voice, "You mischievous spirit." She leaned in his arms and laughed mischievously. "Big Ice Cube, let's make a deal. How about you let me be in charge of interrogating Hong Yi? She blinked and smiled mischievously. She deliberately pretended to make things difficult for Hong Yi. Xiao raised his eyebrows. Why are you so enthusiastic? I also want to learn how to interrogate criminals. How about it? Do you agree? She threw a coquettish glance at him. Then, she was disgusted by herself. Selling her body for this was simply too much. He could tell at a glance that she had other motives. She just didn't want to say it. Since that was the case, he wouldn't ask. However, what are you going to give me in exchange? It was clearly a serious question. Why did it sound like an indescribable feeling to the big ice cube when he said it? She swallowed her saliva. What do you want? No, why was there a need to exchange? Xiao chuckled. Then he leaned close to her ear and said something. Instantly those little white ears turned red. She pushed him lightly and said, "Don't be like this." Xiao smiled. He carried her up and placed her on the table. His eyes reflected the light that poured in from the window. It was so bright that no one dared to look at him directly. He murmured, then cupped her face and kissed her. Close your eyes. On the window, two figures were getting closer and closer. At this moment, Hong Yi was locked up. She sat quietly in a corner, looking very pathetic. At this moment, the metal door suddenly opened and a person walked in. She slowly raised her head. When she saw the person standing in the dark, she stood up with a look of surprise. You're here to save. Before she could finish speaking, she looked down at the dagger in her chest and fell down in disbelief. Why? Her ladyship said that only the dead will not reveal secrets. Hong Yi's eyes were wide open as tears flowed down her cheeks. Chapter 1182. When Chu Qingyan and Xiao received the news, Hong Yi was already dead. Seeing that Hong Yi was covered with a white cloth, Chu Qingyan closed her eyes and looked away. It was hard to imagine that a person who was still alive in front of her just a few hours ago was gone just like that. Even if she had committed the most heinous crimes and committed all kinds of evil deeds, she still died in such a way, which made people sigh. Xiao held her shoulder and said, "Let's go." She watched as Hong Yi's body was sent away, then nodded and followed him out. Big Ice Cube, bury her properly. After all, she stayed in the palace for more than 10 years and helped you maintain the peace in your backyard. Chu Qingyan asked. Xiao nodded. I'll do as you say. She sighed softly. In this world other than life and death, there was nothing else important. Once you leave this world, then your love and hatred, your past, your everything will disappear with the passage of time. If you want people to remember you forever, then you have to live well. Because if you are no longer here, then you will never be able to find a trace. Even those memories will be mixed up with time, and then become blurry, until you can no longer remember them. After the sadness of spring and sorrow of autumn, Chu Qingyan suddenly became serious. Big Ice Cube, there is actually someone who can hide from the fierce cavalry and silently kill Hong Yi. We have to investigate this matter properly and find that person. After the little fellow finished speaking, Xiao said with a cold expression, I already know who it is. You know who is it? Chu Qingyan was surprised. I will handle this matter, you go back and rest. He did not tell her clearly, but only rubbed her head and said with a deep voice. Chu Qingyan was slightly stunned. Maybe she could not help, but the Big Ice Cube did not want her to know. Since that was the case, she would not interfere and let him handle it. Although they found out Hong Yi and knew the person behind it, because of the other party's identity, they could not act rashly and could not easily condemn them. This matter could only be considered as coming to an end. These 2 days she did not dare to relax. Hearing the Big Ice Cube's words, she was also a bit tired, so she did not stay and turned to walk back to her own courtyard. After the little fellow left, the warmth on Xiao's face slowly dissipated with the rise of the sun, leaving behind a dark and cold expression. Where are Gu Rong and Gui now? Xiao asked expressionlessly. Tu Ling, who was standing by the side, thought for a while before replying. Because Master has not brought them with him these few years, this subordinate has assigned them to the secret guards in the manor. They are responsible for the protection of the manor. Speaking of this, Turin remembered that when Master was young, the Empress had placed them by his side as playmates. Later on, because of this relationship, Master often left them in the palace when he went out to travel and fight. The last time he brought them with him was 5 years ago when Master returned to the palace victoriously. When Master suddenly mentioned them, he couldn't help but think of Hong Yi's death. He thought about it and connected many things together. Suddenly he had a bold guess. This guess made him tremble. Could it be? Bring them here. Ben Wang wants to personally interrogate them. The Earth Spirit did not dare to delay, and immediately ordered someone to summon the two of them. After giving his instructions, he turned around to look at the person standing under the tree. The person's black robe fluttered in the wind, but the tall and straight figure gave him an inexplicable feeling of loneliness. He quickly drove this thought out of his mind. How could Master have such an expression? He must be seeing things. When Chu Qingyan returned to her room, she coincidentally bumped into Hua Xioli and Lin Fingyi, who were looking for her. She invited the two to sit at the stone table under the shade of the tree. How did the two of you have time to come over together? The two of them had previously stayed in the Wangfu temporarily. Later on, for some reason, Lin Fingyi bought a courtyard outside, and the two of them moved out, living a cohabiting life where no one would disturb them. Because Hua Xioli had always dressed as a man outside, it did not cause much of a stir. Hua Xioli pointed at the person beside her. He heard that something happened to you, so he came to visit. At this time, Lin Fingyi nodded with a smile and said in sympathy, "It's very fortunate that you managed to escape safely this time. He had nothing to do today, so he came to visit you. Actually, he heard that the one in your family had lost her composure because she was too anxious that day. He didn't see it with his own eyes, so he came to visit you today to ridicule the one in your family." Hua Xioli did not have any awareness of betraying her own people and giggled as she revealed everything. At the side, Lin Fingyi held his forehead helplessly. How can there be such a daughter-in-law? It's really a family misfortune. Hua Xioli's face reddened and she stomped her feet. When did I become your daughter-in-law? Don't talk nonsense. You're ruining my reputation. Lin Fingyi ignored her daily stomping and turned to ask Chu Qingyan, "Have you caught the person?" She did not hide anything and directly told the two of them what happened last night. Wow, that was so exciting. If I had known, I would have stayed last night. That way, I would have been able to watch the good show of you fighting that evil woman. Hua Xioli exclaimed at the side. At the side, Lin Fingyi frowned slightly. Then what was the result of the interrogation? Chu Qingyan shook her head and sighed softly. This morning, Hong Yi was silenced. Hua Xioli was stunned. This. After all, she was a commoner. Although she was usually a little crafty when doing business, she was still a first-class citizen. When she heard this, she was a little frightened. Lin Fingyi was silent for a moment before asking, "Then where is Xiao Su now?" After comforting her good friend, Chu Qingyan casually said, "He said that he wanted to personally interrogate a few people." After saying that, she noticed that Lin Fingyi's expression was a little off. She could not help but ask seriously, "Is there a problem?" Lin Fingyi relaxed her brows and smiled faintly at her. "Nothing. I just feel that it's a little strange that he suddenly did this since he hasn't personally interrogated people for a long time. However, he has nothing to do recently. Perhaps he's bored." Chu Qingyan nodded, but still took this matter to heart. After chatting for a while, Hua Xioli urged Lin Fingyi to leave because she still had matters to attend to in the shop. Before leaving, Lin Fingyi hesitated for a moment, but still said to Chu Qingyan, "Pay more attention to him these days." After saying that, Lin Fingyi smiled and left with his noisy wife, while Chu Qingyan was still puzzled. After sending the two of them off, Chu Qingyan felt a little uneasy. She summoned Jasper and asked, "Where is His Highness now?" "I just heard from the servants that half an hour ago. After Lord left the interrogation room, he entered the palace." "Entered the palace? Did His Majesty summon him?" she continued to ask. "No one came from the palace today." Jasper shook her head. Chu Qingyan pursed her lips. The big ice cube went straight to the palace after the interrogation. Could it be that he found out that the instigator of the Hong Yi incident was the Empress, his imperial mother? Then after he found out the truth, how sorrowful and sad would he be? She suddenly regretted that she did not insist on accompanying him today. She looked at the clear sky outside, but her heart was shrouded in a haze. She felt a little breathless. Chapter 1183. Ever since she disobeyed Pang Huang and Xiao Ho's orders at the palace banquet, Pang Zhijing had been under house arrest and couldn't go anywhere. In the past 2 days at the courier station, she could often see the envoys going in and out through the window. She didn't know what they were plotting. Obviously, Pang Huang's side suffered serious losses because of her desperate move. She heard that Xiao Ho refused to negotiate with them because of this. Until this morning, when she saw the gloominess on their faces disappear, she was sure that Xiao Ho had stopped acting pretentious and officially cooperated with Pang Huang again. She was also relieved that she didn't have to endure these people's cold eyes anymore. Although the food wasn't harsh, if she always stayed here, she would be like a canary in a cage. What was the point of living then? Moreover, after not seeing Xiao Ho for a few days, she found that she missed him. Although she didn't want to admit it, she was really attracted to him. Sigh, this person looked like he was full of evil tricks. She should stop. Yes, she should get out of this situation as soon as possible before she was poisoned too deeply. As she thought about it, she suddenly realized that the guards guarding her were dismissed. She was delighted. Did this mean that the house arrest was lifted? Let's go to Prince Yi's mansion. Although she didn't want to see him anymore, but women always said one thing and meant another. Thinking of this, she let her people out without any pressure. While sitting in the carriage, she nervously thought about what excuse she should use to see him later. The weather has been good recently, so I came over to take a stroll? No, it's too fake. I haven't seen you for a few days, so I came over to see if you've lost weight or gained weight. Are you crazy? I just have nothing better to do. Do you have a problem with that? Uffed. She guessed that she would be thrown out of the mansion after saying that. Just as she was feeling vexed, the maid beside her said, "Princess, we've arrived at Prince Yi's mansion." So fast. Forget it, just let it be. She got off the carriage dejectedly. As soon as they saw her carriage, the manservants at the gate eagerly helped to lead it. As soon as she walked in, the steward specially ran to greet her. The servants coming and going were also very perceptive, and came over to salute her. Pang Zhijing was frightened by the warm and attentive atmosphere. She asked the maid, "What's wrong with them?" The maid said with a smile, "Because you'll be their mistress in a month. Of course, they have to be respectful. It's human nature." Hearing the 3 words mistress, S's heart was a little. Pang Zhijing thought that she had to establish a good image, so she immediately straightened her back and walked with the vigor of a tiger. Then, when she walked into Xiao Ho's courtyard, she found that he was not there. "Where's the prince?" she asked the housekeeper. The housekeeper looked at the empty courtyard and spoke with a sad tone. "Today is the anniversary of Empress Luofei's death. His Highness should have gone out." "Hers is Luo's hers? Your Highness's birth mother passed away when your Highness was 6 years old." The housekeeper sighed. Pang Zhijing's breath caught. Losing his mother at the age of 6 in the cannibalistic palace, how sad was that? There was only one emperor, but there were 3,000 beauties in the harem. The weak were prey to the strong, not to mention he was a prince. It was a blessing to be alive. "Princess, are you okay?" The steward saw her expression was a little strange and hurriedly asked. Pang Zhijing pulled the corner of her mouth. "I'm fine. By the way, do you know where he is now?" "He should be outside the city. In the past, Lord always went there." After getting the location, Pang Zhijing didn't stay a moment longer. She hurriedly got on the carriage with the maid and rushed out of the city. The steward watched their carriage disappear into the street with a gratified smile on his face. "Miss, don't worry. The future princess consort is very cute. Maybe she can take away the hatred in Lord's heart." Chaoyang Palace. Empress Liang was ordering people to help her try out the new products sent by Chu Qingyan. "Nyang, you don't say. When these things are applied on the face, it instantly brightens the complexion of the skin. Even the skin becomes much more delicate." Luo Yun stood to the side and watched the palace maid's actions as he sighed. Empress Liang reached out and saw that the back of her hand was much whiter and more tender than before. She couldn't help but curve her lips into a smile. "These things are truly miraculous. Even His Majesty praised me a few days ago for looking like I was 16 or 17 years old again. As expected, women still need to be maintained, no matter how old they are. Nyang Nyang is still young and is naturally beautiful. With these things, it's even more beautiful. Luo Yun flattered. Empress Liang glared at her. After so many years, your mouth is still so sweet. This servant is speaking the truth, replied Luo Yun with a smile. Empress Liang happily stroked her face in the mirror. The more she looked, the more satisfied she was. To be honest, this empress is quite reluctant to part with that girl Chu Qingyan. It's a pity that she doesn't know how to appreciate favors. Luo Yun agreed. This can only be blamed on Miss Chu's family background. She can't help His Highness much. Nyang Nyang is also thinking for His Highness. 0-inch, but Su'er can't understand this empress's good intentions. As Empress Liang spoke, she face-bombed inside. Right, is there any news from Hong Yi? I've already ordered people to take care of it, but they haven't reported back yet. It's probably because the security is too tight and it's hard to send a message, analyzed Luo Yin. Empress Liang nodded. Have them do it cleanly. Don't let Su'er find any traces. Yes. Luo Yin thought of something. That's right, Nyang Nyang. This servant has already sent people to investigate the matter of the young miss from the Jing family falling into the water. Tell me about it. According to the palace servants who were present, Miss Chu was supposed to be the one who fell into the water, but for some reason, it ended up being Miss Jing. Also, all the signs point to the fact that Miss Chu was the one who fell into the water. Luo Yun analyzed the situation based on the information she received. Her expression was a bit confused. This servant doesn't understand why Consort you would do this. Empress Liang's expression became a bit unsightly. Based on her many years of experience in the inner palace, she immediately guessed the reason. Her tone was harsh as she said. What else could it be? Xiao Ran has taken a liking to Chu Qingyan. So Consort you wants to use this unscrupulous method to make Su'er break off the engagement. She wants to slap this empress in the face and satisfy Xiao Ran's wish. Fourth Imperial Prince and Miss Chu? Luo Yun was stunned. Empress Liang sneered. Wasn't there a rumor about the two of them? It seems that it wasn't groundless speculation. Chu Qingyan still can't be tolerated. Then should this servant send people to take care of her? Suggested Luo Yun. Empress Liang waved her hand. Don't act rashly for now. Hong Yi's matter isn't over yet. Let's wait first. Right at that moment, a palace servant quickly walked in. Nyang Nyang, His Highness requests an audience. Empress Liang was delighted. Su'er hadn't come to the palace to see her in a long time. Let him in. Chapter 1184. In contrast to Empress Liang's joy, Luo Yin was a bit worried. Your Highness, could something have happened for His Highness to come at this time? Empress Liang raised her brows. What could have happened? Luo Yin, you're overthinking things. Luo Yin bowed her head with a smile. This servant is overthinking things. His Highness came to visit you out of filial piety. This servant will order the servants to prepare fruits and snacks right now. Empress Liang waved her hand. You can withdraw. It was rare for Su'er to come today, so she had to tell him that there were some vacancies in the imperial court recently. She had him think of a way to recommend people from his uncle's side to His Majesty. Xiao Su entered the hall, and immediately saw Imperial Mother sitting at the head of the table. He walked in front of her and bowed. I greets Imperial Mother. And Su'er, you haven't come to visit this consort since the palace banquet. The older you grow, the more distant you become from Imperial Mother. Empress Liang was a bit angry when she saw his cold appearance. Xiao Su replied indifferently. I've been busy with court matters recently, so I rarely come to accompany Imperial Mother. Imperial Mother, please forgive me. How could Empress Liang not hear the perfunctory tone in his words? She chuckled. This consort thinks that you're enjoying yourself so much that you've forgotten about home, and Imperial Mother to the back of your mind. Xiao Su looked at her coldly. Imperial Mother, please be careful with your words. Empress Liang was furious when she heard this. Ranner, don't think that Imperial Mother is far away and doesn't know. That lowly wench Chu Qingyan is about to make you a cuckold. Could it be that you're going to swallow this humiliation? That slut Fuyu also gave birth to a son like that. If the upper beam isn't straight, the lower beam will be crooked. He always wants to steal other people's things. Imperial Mother already told you to stay away from Xiao Ran, but you wouldn't listen. Look, he schemed against you during the palace banquet. If it wasn't for someone accidentally replacing her, our Liang family's reputation would have been ruined by Chu Qingyan, and we would have become the laughingstock of the capital. Empress Liang kept calling her a bitch. Xiao Su was annoyed by the Liang family's reputation. He said coldly, "So this is the reason why you want Ayan's life?" "What?" Empress Liang did not react. "Hong Yi is one of your people, right?" Xiao Su said with certainty. Empress Liang was a little flustered. However, she couldn't reveal any flaws. If she was caught by him, their relationship would deteriorate further. Therefore, she pretended to be calm and said, "What are you talking about? Why couldn't Imperial Mother understand? Isn't Hong Yi the head maidservant of your inner court?" Hong Yi was secretly groomed to be an assassin by the Liang residents from the moment she was born. When she was 6 years old, she was arranged to join the famine crowd. In the end, she was taken into the prince's residence by I didn't say anything wrong, right? Empress Liang was stunned. She didn't think that he would be able to investigate something that happened so long ago. The Liang residents had indeed secretly groomed a large group of assassins. Back then, she had wanted to place a spy by his side to report on his every move, so she had asked her father for one. However, she couldn't admit it at this moment. Once she nodded, then everything she had done before would be exposed. This son of hers could do anything, but he could not tolerate betrayal. Therefore, she refused to admit it and said, "Imperial Mother doesn't know anything about what you're saying. If you want to condemn someone, you can easily find a pretext. Sue, or if you really hate Imperial Mother, why do you have to find these reasons? Just say it directly. Imperial Mother can take it." Xiao Su looked deeply at her. The exquisite makeup, the flawless expression, and the weeping accusation were all very well acted. If the person sitting in front of him wasn't his Imperial Mother, he probably wouldn't have given her a chance to quibble. "Imperial Mother, I will give you one more chance. Were you the one who ordered people to poison Ayan?" Empress Liang saw that Sui kept insisting on Chu Qingyan, and was even questioning her for someone who was not related to him by blood. She was so angry that she laughed. "Sue, are you crazy?" "Crazy." The corner of Xiao Su's mouth twitched. "I think that the person who's crazy is Imperial Mother." Empress Liang slapped the table heavily. She furrowed her brows and said angrily, "Xiao Su, watch your attitude. It seems that Imperial Mother intends to deny it to the end. No matter, I brought a witness into the palace. If you have nothing else to do, you can meet him." Xiao Su smiled coldly, then clapped his hands. Soon, the sound of footsteps approached from afar. Empress Liang was shocked. What the hell was he doing? Soon, the person was brought in. It was a young man covered in blood. Although his face was swollen, it didn't affect his identity. After Empress Liang saw him clearly, she froze in place. It was Gu Yi, the other spy she had placed at Xiao Su's side. "You had Hong Yi murder Ayan. After the plan was exposed, you ordered Gu Yi to silence her. So from the beginning, Gu Yi was the middleman you used to contact Hong Yi. Do you still want I to continue speaking for you, Imperial Mother?" Xiao Su expressionlessly looked at his mother, whose face had turned pale. An unknown emotion flashed through his eyes, and his entire person became even colder. Everything had already been exposed. Empress Liang wasn't the kind of person to pester endlessly, so she wasn't that panicked anymore. She might as well smash the broken jar. "That's right. This consort placed Hong Yi at your side, because this consort wanted to understand your daily life through her. This consort wanted to know what you were doing. Killing Chu Qingyan was this consort's idea, so do you want to take revenge for her? What is Chu Qingyan worth? Is she worth you disobeying your own Imperial Mother for her? Was this gloomy and cold woman really his Imperial Mother? I won't take revenge on you because Ayan wouldn't allow I to do so. Otherwise, she wouldn't have wanted to personally silence Hong Yi and hide your identity as the mastermind. It's a pity that you exposed yourself. She is a kind and good girl. It's a pity that you never understood her good side. If you have the time, it would be better to strengthen your position in Imperial Father's heart. This would be more convenient than having I profit for your Liang family. After Xiao Su finished speaking, he ignored her anger and continued. I came to the palace today to tell you something. In a month, the two countries will be married. I will hand over the Tri-Army Command Medallion and leave the capital with my people to return to my fief. If there's nothing important, I will never return to the capital. What? Empress Liang was shocked. You don't need to threaten me with death. Everyone has their own fate. I won't listen to you anymore. Also, before I leave the capital, I won't come to Chaoyang Palace again. I hope you take care. Xiao Su bowed slightly to her. You unfilial son, how can you say such a thing? Empress Liang stared with wide eyes at the cold child in front of her. She couldn't believe that he would one day say such words that cut off all ties with her. He was like a bird that had been tied to a silk thread and was struggling to fly away. At this time, Luo Yun entered the hall with a palace maid. She immediately felt the chill in the air. This scene had to happen every time. She warmly greeted, Your Highness, this is the latest fruit that was offered as tribute. You. Xiao Su coolly looked at his imperial mother, who was on the verge of exploding. He calmly said, If there's nothing else, I will take my leave. You. Xiao Su didn't look at her again. He turned and strode out of the palace. Hearing the porcelain behind him fall to the ground and all kinds of sounds, Xiao Su raised his head to look at the dark sky. He suddenly felt a bit sad. Ayan, from now on, I only have you left. The rain fell drop by drop, slowly soaking the world. Chapter 1185. The drizzle kept falling, drifting into the carriage and falling on Pang Zhijing's body. Her cheeks were cold. She was refreshed and turned to look out of the window. She was a little surprised. When she went out, the sky was clear and boundless. How could it be so cloudy? Your Highness, the weather is not good. Shall we go back home? The maid inquired. Pang Zhijing waved her hand. We are already out. Look, the city gate is right in front of us. How can we go back? But we only know that Prince Yi is outside the city. We don't know where he is exactly. The maid tried to persuade her. Didn't the steward say it? After passing through the woods outside the city, we will see a small hill. Just go over it. The maid thought that the princess was so eager to see Prince Yi that she ignored everything in the rain. As a servant, she could only follow her orders. Pang Zhijing was a little anxious. There was a certain distance between the inside and outside the city. She didn't know if Xiao Ho had left when she arrived. The carriage sped into the woods and stopped at the bottom of the hill. Pang Zhijing jumped out of the carriage and said to the people in the carriage, Wait for me here. I will go by myself. I will be back later. Your Highness, you can't. Before the maid finished speaking, she had already jumped out of the carriage and ran up the hill. The rain was not heavy, just drizzling. Pang Zhijing stepped on the soft ground and felt that the air was very fresh. So she climbed up the hill and admired the surrounding environment. The place was overgrown with weeds, desolate and remote. It didn't look like a place where people often came. Why did he come here to pay homage to Luofei? Thinking of this, she had already climbed to the top of the hill, intending to look down and see where he was. However, when the scenery below fell into her eyes, she was shocked on the spot. Endless tombstones were erected in a disorderly manner among the weeds. Most of them were damaged beyond repair. Some were broken, and some had fallen to the ground. They were scattered all over the place in a disorderly manner, giving off a desolate and gloomy feeling. The drizzle fell on her face. It was cold. The chill from the soles of her feet made her stiff in an instant. Is this the legendary mass grave? A gust of cold wind blew, and the grass that was taller than the tombstones danced in the wind. The white dandelions danced in the wind, and the distant horizon darkened. Everything seemed so strange. Although she lived in a scientific world, she had been afraid of ghosts since she was young. The scene in front of her made her heart turn cold. Should I go back? But Xiao Ho was here. She couldn't leave. On such a special day, she wanted to accompany him, but perhaps he didn't care at all. Before his mind could make a decision, his body had already walked towards the bottom of the slope. She pushed aside the grass that was taller than a person and slowly searched for it. She muttered in her heart. This place was so big, so where was Luofei's tombstone? Also, why would an imperial concubine be buried in a mass grave? The people buried in the mass grave should be those nameless people who couldn't find their families. What was going on? Originally, Xiao was like a mystery to her, but now she couldn't understand him at all. After walking for more than an hour, she still couldn't find him. She didn't dare to shout for fear of encountering a bad person. She could only find a place to rest. She leaned against a crooked tree and wiped the sweat from her face. Using her sleeves as a fan, she looked around. At this time, she saw a white shadow fluttering in the wind behind a large tombstone. She subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. How could she be so unlucky? Did she see a ghost in broad daylight? She subconsciously wanted to run away, but another gust of wind swept over, blowing away the mist in the air. The outline of the white shadow gradually became visible. Xiao. She stared in surprise. It was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find him without any effort. She didn't dare to stay any longer. Otherwise, she would be scared to death by some crows that ran out. So she quickly ran towards him. Unfortunately, there were too many vines on the ground. Although the distance wasn't far, she spent a lot of time. When she was 10 steps away from Xiao, she couldn't walk anymore. Her hands were on her knees as she bent over and gasped for breath. After resting for a while, she raised her head and prepared to call out to him. But when she saw the scene in front of her, she subconsciously closed her mouth. White clothes fluttering, a young master like jade, a picturesque face. Anywhere else, it would be pleasing to the eye, but dilapidated fences and dilapidated walls. Cattail grass fluttered in the wind. The grass was like a cushion, the pine was like a cover, the wind was like a garment, and the water was like a pendant. Looking into the distance, dark clouds covered the world. The world was dark, the cold wind blew, and the drizzle was like a thin mist. Between heaven and earth, his white clothes became the only color in this black area. Only, the loneliness and desolation of his body was like thick ink dripping onto rice paper. It slowly spread in all directions, corroding the wind bit by bit, soaking in the rain, spreading endlessly. She thought that the wind that blew towards her was filled with bitterness. She had never seen such a dejected side of him. It was as if everything in the world no longer existed, and he was the only one left walking in the world. There was no joy, no happiness, no hope. His entire body was surrounded by loneliness as he walked tirelessly. She would rather see him with a gentle exterior, but a cunning and scheming heart. She didn't want to see him sad, as if he was the only one left in the world. But at this moment, she didn't know what to do. He stood there. Although he was so close, it was as if they were separated by a world. She didn't dare to disturb him. But this side of him made her feel an inexplicable heartache. Her gaze turned to the tombstone. On the mottled stone slab, there were only 4 simple words, Tomb of the Luo family. The words looked a little immature, as if they were written by a child. But she faintly felt that they were familiar, as if she had seen this handwriting somewhere before. In front of the tombstone, there was a bouquet of jasmine flowers. There was still dew on them. The small white flowers were blooming brightly. It was obvious that they had only bloomed today. In the air, there seemed to be a faint fragrance that seeped into one's nose. A burst of cold wind blew over, causing the corners of his clothes to flutter. It was as if he would be blown away by the wind if he wasn't careful. It was like he was immersed in his own world, alone and lonely, revealing his true self. There was no disguise, no mask, no insincerity, no smile that didn't reach his eyes. Taking off his warm outer clothes, he seemed like a traveler with shackles on his back so heavy. She thought that his feelings for Luo Fei must be very deep, so even after so many years, his mourning was still so sad. How long do you plan on looking there? As she was lost in her thoughts, a cold voice pierced through the rain and reached her ears. She subconsciously raised her head to look at him, but what she saw was a pair of indifferent eyes. In that moment, it was as if her heart had been hit by something. It was as if her eyes suddenly lit up. Those eyes that weren't covered by a false smile were so beautiful that one couldn't help but want to reach out and touch them. Chapter 1186. While she was in a daze, Xiao impatiently glanced at her. Then he retracted his gaze and bent down to pick up the wine jug to fill the wine cup. At this time, Pang Zhijing finally came back to her senses. She slowly walked over and stood beside him. Seeing his actions, she subconsciously scratched her head. I went to look for you today. The steward said that you might be here, so I came over. Why did you come over? Xiao did not look at her. His gaze fell on the tombstone as if he was just asking casually. She pursed her lips, not knowing what excuse to use. She couldn't say that she missed him after not seeing him for a few days. She did not forget what he said to her in the imperial palace. He told her not to think too much. She wasn't stupid enough to send herself up to be ridiculed by him. Forget it. Where you go is none of this king's business. Seeing her conflicted face, Xiao did not pursue the matter and said indifferently. She was choked by his words and her heart was a little hurt. This kind of Xiao who was not hypocritical was really annoying. Didn't he know that he had to be gentle and gentlemanly towards girls? Go, don't stay here. After Xiao gave the order to leave, he lifted his clothes and sat on the ground. He did not care if the ground was clean or not as he picked up another wine cup and drank alone. When she heard him chasing her away, she felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. But seeing him sit down like this, such a clean freak could actually not care about anything. Today he had opened the door to a whole new world for her. Normally, she would not have this opportunity. She suddenly did not want to leave like this, and there was a voice in her heart that told her not to leave. She rolled her eyes and squatted down beside him shamelessly. She said shamelessly, "This place doesn't belong to your family, so what right do you have to make me leave? Also, I can go wherever I want, it's none of your business." Seeing her shameless appearance, Xiao's heart was filled with helplessness. Today, he just wanted to quietly accompany his mother. Where did this little shameless person come from? Do as you wish. He did not want to quarrel with her in front of his mother on this kind of day. Seeing that he had compromised, Pang Zhijing immediately propped herself up on the ground and imitated him. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. If you want to accompany someone, you have to make a gesture. Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. He had some doubts about her actions. He didn't know what she was going to do. But today, Xiao really guessed her thoughts wrong. There were no side dishes, only wine. Pang Zhijing watched him drink one cup after another. Although his drinking speed was not fast, he would get drunk sooner or later. What's the point of drinking like this? She didn't dare to directly snatch the cup, so she could only use words to provoke him. Xiao said indifferently, with the cool breeze accompanying me and the mountain scenery in front of me, a cup of turbid wine is enough. She puffed up her cheeks. The ancients loved to be so genteel. Xiao, they said that your imperial mother was buried outside the city. Is the one buried in this tomb your imperial mother? If she didn't speak, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to start a conversation. Therefore, the person who was moved first was the loser. She could only take the initiative. Xiao nodded and didn't say anything. She was quiet for a while. Then she asked hesitantly, "Did she die of illness?" The only answer she got was the whistling of the cold wind. She lowered her eyes. Although she knew that this question was a bit like prying into someone's privacy, she just wanted to know more about him. She was afraid that today's appearance was just a flash in the pan. Tomorrow he would put on his mask again, and become the sickly prince with fake smiles in his eyes. The Xiao who always gave her the illusion that they were separated by glass. Because she lowered her head, she didn't see the sadness that flashed through Xiao's eyes after she asked this question. He was so immersed in his memories that he didn't respond to her. He would never forget the time when he was 6 years old. His mother was lying on the bed, trying hard to raise her hand to touch his face to stop him from crying. But just as her hand was in the air, it fell down. From then on, he was the only one left in this world. He raised his head and saw her hugging her knees with an injured appearance. The sadness in his heart was lessened by her pitiful appearance. Sometimes he couldn't understand how someone as thick-skinned as her could survive in the southern blue imperial palace until now. She was killed by someone. Just as she was immersed in the endless cycle of resentment about Xiao, this big bad bastard, and how she accompanied him but was ignored by him. This sentence suddenly rang in her ears. She was a bit flattered that he would actually tell her this. But when she realized the meaning of this sentence, her entire back was shining. She looked at him and only saw his resolute side profile. His brows were slightly furrowed, as if he was carrying an unspeakable resentment and hatred. Who was the one who did this? She subconsciously blurted out. Her tone carried a hatred for a common enemy that even she didn't notice. But when she asked this, Xiao's expression turned cold. This isn't something you should know. He bluntly rejected her. Pang Zhijing was frightened by his harsh words, but she knew that she had overstepped her boundaries. She could only swallow her grievances. A deathly silence spread between the two. If she didn't open her mouth, Xiao wouldn't take the initiative to speak. Originally, Xiao was a person who didn't care about his surroundings. But now, her silence made him uncomfortable. Just as he was pondering while swirling his wine cup, the corner of his clothes seemed to be gently tugged. He lowered his head and saw two slender jade fingers tugging at his clothes. He turned his head and met her apologetic gaze. I'm sorry, I shouldn't pry into other people's privacy. Don't be angry, I won't ask in the future. She clearly felt wronged, but she was still willing to take the initiative to apologize. This kind of little rascal inexplicably made his heart palpitate. He shifted his gaze and looked at the pile of grass not far away. I'm not angry, you're thinking too much. Is that so? Then why don't you smile for me? Her bad habit of speaking without thinking appeared again. She really wanted to bite off her own tongue. All right, I won't say anything. The more I say, the more mistakes I make. She raised her hands in surrender. She really was too stupid today. She really wasn't suited for pleasing people. Xiao saw her hugging her knees again, looking like she was blaming herself for being hurt. He couldn't bear it. He didn't know when it started, but her words and actions would affect him. Go light some incense. Pang Zhijing instantly raised her head and looked at him with a face full of disbelief. Did she just hear things? Did you just say something? Xiao was even shocked by what he said, not to mention Pang Zhijing. Hearing her ask for confirmation, he couldn't bring himself to repeat himself. He angrily said, It's fine if you didn't hear it. I heard it. I'll go light some incense now. It wasn't easy for him to talk to her, so she didn't want to make things awkward again. Pang Zhijing's heart was filled with thoughts of reconciliation, so she didn't think about why he wanted her to light some incense. Afraid that he would change his mind, she immediately stood up from the ground. But she didn't know if it was because she didn't eat breakfast or something else, but she suddenly felt dizzy and fell to the side. Chapter 1187. Pang Zhijing's entire body was pressed down. Xiao was caught off guard and could only reach out to catch her. Although this was not the first time he had touched her, every time he touched her, he felt that her skin was very hot and his heartbeat suddenly sped up. After the dizziness passed, she found that she was lying on top of him in a very ambiguous position. It was soft and fragrant. She actually shamefully felt that lying on top of him was very comfortable. Have you touched enough? Just as she was about to become infatuated, a forbearing voice rang out in her ears. Only then did she realize that her hand was on his chest and she was poking and pinching everywhere. Cuckoo. She immediately got up from his body. She did not even dare look at him as she quickly searched for the incense. Being hit by her was too sudden. Xiao stood up while holding his shoulder. As expected, meeting her was never a good thing. After moving his limbs, he looked up and saw her holding a stick of incense, not knowing what to do. He couldn't help but let out a sigh. Then he walked straight to her side, took her incense, and took out a match from his sleeve. Stupid to death. Can't you ask me for help? After lighting the incense and putting it back in her hand, Xiao could not help but ridicule her. She wanted to cry but had no tears as she held the incense. She silently cursed in her heart. Isn't this because I'm afraid you'll find me annoying? Xiao stood by her side and turned to see her serious face. The irritation in his heart also calmed down as he slowly opened his mouth. My mother used to be the daughter of the Minister of War. She was a famous, talented, and beautiful woman in the capital. Later on, her father, who was my grandfather, was framed for colluding with the enemy. His entire family was exterminated. The men were sent to the border and the women were sent into the palace as slaves. My mother entered the palace like this as the daughter of a guilty official. Later on, because she received imperial father's favor, I existed. But she was only able to endure 6 years in the palace before she was poisoned. His calm and emotionless voice recounted the tragedy of his life without much emotion, but it made Pang Zhijing's heart ache. He must have had a hard time during those unmentioned times. His mother was the daughter of a guilty official, so she definitely did not receive good treatment in the palace. Moreover, she had heard early on that he was not favored since he was young. She could imagine how difficult it would be for him to lose his mother at such a young age in the cold palace, where the words of the weak carried little weight, and the palace servants held the strong and stepped on the weak. But when he spoke, he didn't mention that past at all. When a person was in so much pain that they were numb, they would not cry out in pain. In the silence, he could feel the deep pity in her eyes. Xiao was slightly stunned. He didn't know why he told her these things so naturally, but so many years had passed. He had endured so many bitter, tiring and hateful days. He didn't need anyone's sympathy. Now he was living with the goal of revenge in mind. However, the person next to him was not related by blood. They were just strangers who met by chance. He had schemed against her, but she still felt pity for him. This made him a little surprised, but he did not want to delve into the specific reason. Because right now there was nothing more important than his revenge. Light the incense. He looked away and said lightly. Pang Zhijing gathered her emotions and nodded. Then she faced the tombstone and respectfully held the incense, silently thinking. Auntie Luo, although I have never met you, but from Xiao's arrogant and cold attitude, I can feel his respect and love for you. You must be a gentle woman. It's a pity that I have no chance to meet you. But I am very grateful to God for letting me meet him, and I am also grateful to you. I, Pang Zhijing, promise that as long as I am in the Sichuan capital, I will accompany him and not let him be lonely. I hope you can rest in peace in heaven. Xiao stood beside her, and took in her sincere prayer. A touch of warmth appeared in his eyes. Then he turned to look at the tombstone and his gaze became gentle. Mother, the girl standing in front of you is called Pang Zhijing. It is very likely that she is the one who will spend the rest of his life with your son. Although she is very silly and naive and causes trouble for me from time to time, I am already used to it. You can rest assured in the ground. Pang Zhijing had already inserted the incense into the incense burner. When she was about to sit back down, something was suddenly stuffed into her hand. She looked down and couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. A sickle? What? What do you want to do? She had a bad premonition. Can't you see that the grass has grown over the tombstone? Hurry up and finish it before the sun goes down. After Xiao finished speaking, he no longer paid attention to her. He picked up another sickle and went behind the tombstone. He rolled up his sleeves and began to remove the grass. Listening to his righteous actions and natural words, a few words popped up in Pang Zhijing's head. Are you kidding me? But the other party had already used his actions to refuse to reply. Pang Zhijing encouraged herself, then rolled up her sleeves, walked to the other side, and started working in full swing. Through the grass, he saw that she was working hard. Xiao smiled with satisfaction, and then continued to lower his head to do his own work. He was busy all the way until evening. The rain also gradually stopped. She straightened her back. Her whole body was a little wet, but her forehead was full of sweat. She threw the sickle on the ground and sat down. I'm so tired. Xiao walked out and poured her a cup of wine. Make do with it to quench your thirst. Her mouth was dry now, so she couldn't care about anything else. She raised her head and drank it. It wasn't as bitter as she had imagined. On the contrary, it tasted very good. She couldn't help but turn to ask him. What wine is this? It's sweet. Fruit wine. My mother liked to drink it when she was still in her boudoir. He replied. She nodded. It tasted very good. It wasn't too strong and was suitable for women to drink. Wait, didn't he drink from this cup just now? Her face flushed red. Was this considered an indirect kiss? Xiao naturally didn't know what was going on in her head. He turned to see her in a daze and couldn't help but urge her. Let's go. So soon? She hadn't rested enough. Xiao was helpless. Don't tell me you want to stay and feed the mosquitoes? She looked at the few bumps on her arm. After weighing the pros and cons, she immediately got up. Let's go home. Seeing her skipping ahead, Xiao smiled and followed behind with his hands behind his back. It was just that when they were climbing up the hill, he turned back to take a look, and an unknown emotion surfaced in his heart. On this day this year, because of Little Rascal's interruption, it didn't seem so sad. At this moment, Little Rascal was startled again. Xiao, look, there's a rainbow. He turned back, but he didn't look at the sky immediately. Instead, he looked at the bright smile that was so sincere and warm. I see it. It's very beautiful. Of course, I'm in a good mood, so I'll sing a song for you. The sunshine always comes after the rain. Please believe that there's a rainbow. I'll accept all the ups and downs. I'll always be by your side. Her crisp and warm voice reverberated throughout the vast space. Chapter 1188. The maid and coachman waited beside the carriage for a long time. When they finally saw their princess coming from afar, they immediately went up to her. Your Highness, why were you gone for so long? I almost went to look for you. I was so worried. The maidservant didn't notice Xiao, who was behind her, until she saw that she was safe and sound. She hurriedly saluted him. Greetings, Your Highness. Xiao nodded slightly. This maid was called Lure. She was newly assigned to serve her. She was not as snobbish as the previous ones who always looked down on her, so she treated her with sincerity. She waved her hand and said indifferently, This place is deserted. What danger can there be? You're the only one who likes to worry. As she spoke, she glanced at the person beside her from the corner of her eye. She immediately asked, Do you not have a ride? Do you want to go back with me? Xiao looked at her as if she was an idiot. Although we are engaged, do you think it's appropriate for a man and a woman to be alone? Don't ruin my reputation. Peng Zhijing's mouth twitched. Didn't she eat and sleep with him on the way back to the capital? As if he saw through her thoughts, Xiao explained. This place is different from the outside. Let's go separately. All right. She accepted his explanation. When she was about to say something else, her nose suddenly itched and she couldn't help but sneeze. She probably caught a cold in the cemetery. She rubbed her nose and was about to say goodbye to him when she felt a weight on her shoulder. She tilted her head and saw that he was about to withdraw his hand. Her whole body was wrapped in his coat, and it was very warm. She was touched when she heard him say, Don't do such brainless things in the future. Her good impression of him disappeared immediately. If I had a brain, where would you find free labor today? After saying that, she vaguely felt that she had said something wrong. She looked up and saw him trying to hold back his laughter. She felt utterly embarrassed again. However, it was rare to see Xiao so untainted and bright. She felt that sometimes her stupidity was worth it. When she turned to get on the carriage, Xiao spoke. When you didn't find me in the graveyard, no one was watching you. Why didn't you run away? His words made her stop in her tracks, and her eyes widened instantly. That's right. Why was she so stupid? Was she really going to find him wholeheartedly? Actually, she could have slipped away. Such a rare opportunity. Xiao couldn't help but shake his head when he saw her slow reaction. Seeing him like this, it seemed like he knew everything. She was a little angry in her heart. Do you think I'm stupid? You have a compass in your hand. No matter where I go, I'll still be found by you. I don't have time to play cat and mouse with you. Now that you've missed your chance, you won't get another one. Xiao looked at her coldly. She snorted. If you have the ability, you can lock me up for the rest of my life. Otherwise, I'll definitely find a way to get my freedom. Even tigers have times when they take a nap. I hope you can stay awake every day. After saying that, she stepped into the carriage and ignored him. Take care, princess. Hearing the hypocrite's warm smile, Peng Zhijing choked on a mouthful of old blood in her throat. She beat her chest and stamped her feet. She shouldn't have been soft-hearted. This was simply a wolf, a complete wolf with a big tail. Xiao watched her carriage leave. Thinking of her words before she left, he couldn't help but sneer. If he wanted to trap someone, it wouldn't be difficult at all if he put in some effort. She was too naive. However, it wasn't until that day that he suddenly realized how easy it was to lose a person. It was so easy that he couldn't reach out his hand to touch her eyebrows when she was within his reach. Sitting in the carriage, Peng Zhijing's anger slowly subsided. Her hand touched his coat, and the corner of her mouth couldn't help but curl up into a sweet smile. Luo didn't know about the entanglement between her and Xiao. Judging from their interaction just now, they were a perfect match. A talented man and a beautiful woman, they were a match made in heaven. At this moment, seeing the princess's budding love, she couldn't help but smile. I think you and Prince Yi are a perfect match. Hearing this, Peng Zhijing's smile faded. Is that so? Luo nodded vigorously. Yes. When you stand together, I feel that the surrounding scenery is overshadowed. Peng Zhijing twitched the corner of her mouth. Perhaps. Xiao was an unreachable existence to her. The distance between them was too far. Therefore, even if she fell for him first, she wouldn't allow herself to fall for him. The one who fell in love first was the most inferior. But this little girl wouldn't understand even if she explained it to her. I'm tired. I'll rest for a while. Wake me up when we arrive. She was a little sleepy after doing so much physical work today. Luo nodded considerately. She closed her eyes and hugged his coat. The faint medicinal fragrance on it was very helpful for sleeping. Soon she fell asleep. In a daze, she seemed to have a dream. Fog lingered in front of her, and she couldn't see more than 5 steps away. She was a little nervous. Where was this? Why was she here? At this time, a gust of wind blew, blowing away the fog in front of her. The scenery not far away slowly became clear. When she saw it clearly, she couldn't help but widen her eyes. Wasn't this the tomb where she and Xiao were just now? Why did she dream of it? Could it be that she had really attracted something unclean? Xiao, where are you? It's all your fault. Come and save me. Her legs were about to turn to jelly. But at this time, a light blue figure slowly appeared after the fog dispersed. Peng Zhijing subconsciously wanted to run, but when the other's face clearly entered her line of sight, she couldn't help but stop. There was a beauty, clear and gentle. Only today did she completely understand the meaning of this sentence. Hello, may I ask who you are? The beauty smiled at her. She looked to be around 20 years old, but her gaze was filled with affection. It made her feel a little strange. I am Luo Qianxi. You don't have to be afraid. I only entered your dream. I won't hurt you. The voice was gentle and soft, with a gentle and beautiful tone. Luo, Peng Zhijing exclaimed. Could it be that you're Xiao's mother? Luo Qianxi smiled. That's right. Hoer is my child. Today is the first time he's brought a girl to visit me. I'm very surprised and happy. Peng Zhijing touched her nose a little embarrassedly. I'm the one who pestered him. He actually hates me. No, I can see that he likes you very much. Luo Qianxi pursed her lips and smiled. Peng Zhijing's face heated up, and she immediately changed the topic. Then why are you here? Luo Qianxi frowned slightly. Actually, I should have reincarnated, but Hoer has been blinded by hatred. I really couldn't be at ease, so I continued to stay in the world of the living. At this point, she suddenly smiled and looked at Peng Zhijing. But now, I can reincarnate with peace of mind. Jing, please allow me to call you this. I'll leave Hoer in your hands. He's suffered too much these years. There's not much time left, so I have to go. Take care. Chapter 1189. Before Peng Zhijing could hear clearly, the person in front of her turned into a puff of white smoke and disappeared. She reached out to call her, but suddenly woke up with a start. Princess, did you have a nightmare? Luo immediately came over and asked worriedly. Peng Zhijing blinked. After her eyes adjusted to the light, she held her forehead and slowly got up. I'm fine. It was just a dream. Where are we now? We're already in the city. We'll be at the relay station soon. Luo pointed at the street outside and smiled. She nodded and leaned against the wall of the carriage. Her gaze fell on the brightening street as she recalled the scene in her dream. Could it be that she dreamed of what she thought of in the day? But that woman was so real. She could still remember her smiling face and the words she said. That was too strange. At this moment Lu suddenly remembered something. She immediately took something and handed it to Ji Yinshu. Princess, when we entered the city just now, a servant from Prince Yi's residence sent this ointment. He said that Prince Yi ordered it to be applied to your wounds. Lu then asked worriedly, Princess, are you hurt? Hurt. Pang Zhijing, who was immersed in her own world, didn't react. However, Lu, who was worried about her, had already started to check her injuries. Ji Yinshu was just about to tell her not to panic when Lu held her hand with tears in her eyes. Her heart ached. Princess, what happened to your hand? Why are there so many cuts? What have you been doing all afternoon? Only then did Pang Zhijing notice that her fingers were cut by the grass. Although the wounds weren't deep, they still hurt a little. I had nothing to do this afternoon, so I went to pull the grass. I didn't know that my fingers were so delicate and couldn't do any physical work. Lu looked at her plaintively. Princess, you're of noble status. Those menial tasks are all done by us servants. If you have nothing to do, you can go play the zither and read books. If there's anything else, just let me do it. Ji Yinshu was tired of having to deal with such a nagging maidservant. She could only promise that it wouldn't happen again. You said that this ointment was sent by Prince Yi? Ji Yinshu's main point was this. Lu nodded. Yes. He said that if you apply this ointment twice a day, it will heal quickly. After you bathe in the evening, this servant will apply the medicine for you. It turned out that he still cared about her. It seemed that he wasn't so cold-hearted after all. Pang Zhijing was secretly delighted. Lu was immune to her mistress's infatuation. She began to think about what supper she should prepare for tonight. The carriage smoothly entered the relay station. Inside the palace, Consort Yu stood at the entrance of Xiao Ran's palace and waited impatiently outside. After a while, Lu Yu walked out and said to Consort Yu with a straight face, His Highness said that he's not feeling well and asked for your Highness to return first. He'll visit you once he's recovered. Every time this consort comes, you all use this excuse to fob off this consort. Have you all eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? Imperial concubine Moon finally couldn't bear it any longer, and said angrily. Lu Yu still looked neither servile nor overbearing. Your Highness, this is His Highness's wish. This servant can't make the decision. All right. He said that he's not feeling well, but he didn't ask for an imperial physician. This consort has invited an imperial physician from the imperial hospital, and he's on his way. This consort wants to see what he's throwing a tantrum for. As she spoke, Consort Yu waved her hand. The guards behind her forcibly opened up a path and pushed Lu Yu to the side. Consort Yu let her people in. The moment she entered the inner hall, she felt that the entire place was lifeless. Consort Yu's face darkened and she immediately ordered the lights to be lit. When the hall lit up, Consort Yu looked around and saw the person lying on the bed. She immediately walked over. She had prepared words of reprimand, but when she saw his pale and bloodless face, her anger immediately dissipated. She sat down on the chair that the palace servant had brought over and said tenderly, Ran, where are you feeling unwell? The imperial physician will be here soon. Xiao Ran's tightly shut eyes slowly opened when he heard her voice. His unfocused eyes slowly focused. Just as Consort Yu happily waited for him to speak, he flipped over and turned his back to her. He didn't say a word and silently resisted. Consort Yu was hurt by his silent resistance. She suppressed her anger and complained. What exactly is wrong with you? You won't even say anything when Mufei comes to see you? After she finished speaking, the person on the bed still didn't move. Consort Yu took a deep breath and turned to ask the palace servants attending to him. When did His Highness become like this? The young eunuch replied in a trembling voice. Ever since His Highness came back from falling into the water a few days ago, he hasn't said a word or eaten anything. No matter how this servant tried to persuade him, he wouldn't listen. Then why didn't you tell this consort? Consort Yu vented her anger on them. The young eunuch immediately knelt down and wanted to cry. His Highness didn't allow this servant to leave the hall to tell you. Consort Yu coldly gave a look to the guards following her. The guard stepped forward and dragged the young eunuch away, along with the other palace servants in the hall. When the palace was quiet again and only the mother and son were left, Consort Yu spoke to Xiao Ran again. Do you blame Mu Fei for falling into the water? I don't dare, Xiao Ran said in a hoarse voice. Consort Yu sneered. Mu Fei thinks that it's not that you don't dare, but that you already blame her in your heart. Xiao Ran didn't say anything. Consort Yu sighed. Ranner, Mu Fei knows that I didn't do a good job, but who would have thought that an accident would happen? Why did Jing Mingzhu run out? Where did Chu Qingyan run off to? No one could have predicted that. Mu Fei has truly let you down. I didn't think that you would use this kind of method to treat Qingyan. It's too dirty, Xiao Ran said in a muffled voice. His voice was filled with deep disappointment. These words deeply pierced Consort Yu's heart. She felt that she had schemed so hard for him, but in the end, she was called dirty. She felt powerless in her heart. Ranner, how do you think Mu Fei took care of you for so many years to survive in this man-eating place? It's all Mu Fei's fault for protecting you too well. You can't see the wolves, tigers, and leopards outside. Consort Yu stood up and said in a low voice. The matter with Chu Qingyan was Mu Fei's negligence. You can blame Mu Fei, but you have to settle this marriage with the Jing family. Whether it's for public or private reasons, it's good for you. I don't want to marry someone I don't love. Xiao Ran regretted saying those words to Mu Fei, but as soon as he heard that he was going to marry Jing Mingzhu, he became excited. Now that things have come to this, you don't have the right to choose. Alright, that's all Mu Fei has to say. When the imperial physician comes, cooperate with Mu Fei. Mu Fei won't be an eyesore to you anymore. Consort Yu looked at him, shook her head, and turned to leave in disappointment. Xiao Ran watched her leave and angrily clenched his fists and punched the bed. Why did it become like this? Why? Chapter 1190. The sky gradually darkened. When Chu Qingyan received the news that Big Ice Cube had returned, it was already late at night. She hurriedly ran to his courtyard. The moment she entered, she smelled the aroma of wine. She turned around and saw the wine pot and cups on the table. When Xiao Su was pouring the wine, he saw her figure from the corner of his eye. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "Why are you here?" She pretended to be relaxed as she walked in. She complained, "You didn't even say anything when you went out today. I didn't see you come back for dinner. Don't you know that you have a family? How can you be like this?" Xiao Su was slightly stunned. He had indeed left in a hurry today. He apologized. "I'll remember it. It won't happen again." Who wants to hear his promise? She turned around and sat down in front of him. "Have you eaten?" "What about you?" he asked back. "You haven't eaten yet. I've already asked the kitchen to prepare some food. It'll be sent over later." She rolled her eyes at him in annoyance. Ian is really capable, Xiao Su praised with slightly curved lips. "Don't flatter me. This lady doesn't care." She was unhappy that he was keeping things to himself. He would rather relieve himself than tell her. He would rather wander aimlessly outside than come back. He would rather drown his sorrows in wine than have her accompany him. The little fellow's sudden tantrum made him a little confused. "Who provoked you?" "Far away on the horizon, right in front of me," she harumphed. Xiao Su was slightly stunned. He then smiled helplessly. "I'm fine. You don't have to worry." "Is that so?" Then who was it that strolled around the streets as if he had lost his soul after leaving the palace, and even bought wine back? Don't you know that it hurts your stomach to drink wine without eating? What can't two people discuss together? When two people share happiness, happiness will be added to happiness. When two people share bitterness, bitterness will be less bitter. Big Ice Cube, do you not have me in your heart anymore? So I'm not important anymore? In the beginning, Xiao Su listened to her scolding and felt a little guilty. But in the end, it escalated to such a serious level. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. His palm landed on her head and rubbed it hard. He laughed and said, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Chu Qingyan pursed her lips. She suddenly stood up and pounced on him. Xiao Su instinctively opened his arms and embraced her. She hugged him tightly and buried her head in his chest. She said in a nasal voice, Big Ice Cube, it's okay. Don't be sad. There are thousands of people in this world, and thousands of people have different personalities and ways of living. Not every mother loves her child, and not every child is born without the love of their family. You still have me. Don't be disappointed with family. You are my Big Ice Cube, and also my family. Xiao felt his chest become moist, and his heart felt like it was being scalded by that moist feeling. It was burning. It turned out that the little fellow knew about it. He had walked outside for half a day, because he didn't want her to see him in such a sorry state. But he didn't expect that the little fellow had a heart of 7 orifices. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't hide it from her eyes. You knew about it? He hugged her sideways on his lap and reached out to gently wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. He hesitated for a moment before asking. She nodded and leaned her head on his shoulder. She sniffled. I know that Hong Yi is your imperial mother's person. I also know that she has always disliked me and wanted to get rid of me. So after you finished interrogating her today, I guessed that you were going to find your imperial mother to reason with her. I've known your imperial mother for a while, and know what kind of person she is. She won't admit to her mistakes. Moreover, you are such a filial person, so you can't do anything to her. But you also feel guilty towards me in your heart. You feel that it's because of you that I'm in danger. At this point, she reached out to hold his hand. Her fingers slid through the gaps between his fingers and tightly intertwined. Then she continued. So in the end, the only one who will suffer is yourself. Ian. He was about to open his mouth when she stopped him. She looked into his eyes and continued. Big Ice Cube, you don't have to feel sorry for me. You are you, and your imperial mother is your imperial mother. You don't have to take the blame for whatever she did to me. No one can take responsibility for anyone, so you don't have to feel burdened. Xiao held her hand tightly, his eyes filled with pity. She smiled at him and then said in a serious tone, I know that as a junior, I shouldn't criticize my elders. But I still want to say that in Empress Liang's eyes, there are only power and status. Family ties may be the last. So you know what kind of person she is, so don't expect to receive love from her. If there's no hope, there won't be disappointment. Big Ice Cube, I hope that you can live a more relaxed and happy life. Those responsibilities, the country, and the world, we can do as much as we can. Don't carry the rest on your shoulders, because that will make my heart ache. After saying so much, she stopped to catch her breath. Suddenly, she felt that the place she was leaning on was trembling slightly. She couldn't help but look up, only to see that the Big Ice Cube was laughing softly. Hey, don't be like this. I'm talking to you seriously, but you actually laughed. It was rare for her to be so serious, but the Big Ice Cube didn't give her face at all. It was too sad. But to be able to see him smile from the bottom of his heart again, she felt that she didn't say so much in vain. And these words had been hidden in her heart for many years. Finally, she was happy to say it out, and she couldn't help but giggle foolishly. Ian, I didn't expect you to have a teacher's side. He shook his head and laughed. I also didn't expect that a dignified general like me would be lectured by someone one day. And in his heart, he agreed with every word she said. This is called shocking people with a single brilliant feat, it's all, because I'm usually too low-key. She was in a good mood, and her face became thick-skinned. Xiao looked at the little fellow in front of him. From the bottom of his heart, he felt that she was like the umbrella in his life. Every time a storm came, she was the only one who accompanied him. She was right. People couldn't choose their own birth and parents. Nothing could be forced. Only by letting nature take its course could one free their heart and not live so hard anymore. He was too greedy and excessively wanted things that didn't belong to him. In fact, in his life, being able to meet this little fellow was already his greatest fortune. So there was no need to continue being so demanding. It was as if he had put down a heavy burden that had been weighing down on him for many years. He had never felt so relaxed. Then she asked, Then are you in a better mood now? Are you still feeling bad? Xiao pinched her face and teased. What do you think? Seeing him like this, he should be fine. She stuck out her tongue at him. This mischievous look made his heart itch, and he couldn't help but want to lower his head and kiss her. And at this moment, a loud voice was heard. Kai, son-in-law, your mother and I are here. Mr. Chu jumped in, and couldn't help but blink. He seemed to have seen many pink bubbles suddenly burst. And his daughter and son-in-law were standing side by side and looking at him. He rubbed his head. He must be seeing things. Chapter 1191. We haven't eaten yet. Let's eat together. Mr. Chu said casually. Just then Mrs. Chu came in and smiled at the two of them. I told the kitchen to prepare 2 more dishes. Xiao looked at the little fellow beside him in confusion. He asked her with his eyes what was going on. Why did her parents suddenly come to his yard for dinner tonight? Chu Qingyan rubbed her nose and leaned closer to him. She stammered. Dad and Mom came to visit this afternoon. They found out that you were in a bad mood today. Maybe that's why they came over tonight. Xiao was stunned. However, at this time, Chu Qian's father had already sat down and asked his wife to sit down. Then he picked up the wine pot and poured a glass of wine. He put it under his nose and smelled it. His eyes immediately lit up. Good wine. Mr. Chu immediately gulped it down, as if he was afraid that others would choke on it. At the same time, Huang Yi brought the servants in with the dishes. Sweet and sour pork ribs, braised fish, braised pork trotters, 8 treasure wild duck, golden roll. It was obvious that Huang Yi had put in a lot of effort into tonight's meal. Mr. Chu was already drooling. He waited for his wife to scoop the food for him and couldn't wait to take big bites. You don't even know how hungry I was waiting for you to come back for dinner, Chu Qian's father said incoherently. He didn't know why they wanted to wait for him to eat together, but when he heard this, his heart instantly warmed. He reached out with his chopsticks and put a piece of fatty fish into Mr. Chu's bowl. He then put a piece of pork ribs into Mrs. Chu's bowl and asked them to eat more. Mr. Chu was flattered. Son-in-law, you actually know that Dad likes to eat fish. Come, have a piece too. Xiao looked at the extra meat in his bowl and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wasn't this piece of fatty meat a little too fatty? Kai, you're still growing. Eat more trotters. I know, Mom. Don't just focus on getting food for us. Eat more too. Dan Nyang, give your son-in-law a piece of hoof. That plate is too far away. I'm afraid he won't be able to get it. Therefore, the long-limbed son-in-law became a short-limbed son-in-law in his father-in-law's words. Looking at the joyous scene at the dinner table, Xiao suddenly felt that was what he had desired in the past. The whole family enjoyed their meal in a relaxed manner. They cared for each other and treated each other sincerely. It turned out that happiness was always so close to him. Today he had just experienced the disappointment of his family, but because of the little fellow's family he felt warm. He seemed to have understood something, and the knot in his heart was quietly untied. In the future he would also have a family, and more than one. Chu Qingyan looked at the faint smile in Big Ice Cube's eyes, and then looked at her father, whose mouth and hands were full of oil, and couldn't help but smile. Heaven closes a door for you, but opens a window for you. Maybe you haven't met the right person, but as long as you don't give up, you might meet him at the next corner. Come, son-in-law, have a drink with your father. The wine cups clinked, and laughter filled the room. It was such a happy and harmonious family. Hualing and Turan, who were standing guard outside, could hear the laughter coming from inside from time to time. Their tense nerves could finally relax. It's still the little princess that has a way. She silently gave Master such a powerful healing medicine. Hualing sighed. His words couldn't hide his admiration for the little princess. Turan nodded. I thought that Master would be depressed for a while like before, but it's all thanks to the little princess. In the future, we need to pay more attention to the movements of the imperial palace. At least, we need to protect the little princess from being hurt. Otherwise, where can we find such an outstanding little princess for Master? Hualing sighed. Turan's expression turned serious. You're right. At least before we leave the capital, we can't let down our guard. There was only one Chu Qingyan in the world. One Chu Qingyan who could heal the wound in their master's heart. So even if they had to use all their strength, they would not let her suffer any harm. In the morning, Chu Qingyan had nothing to do and was trimming the potted plants in the room. Jasper walked in. Master, The fourth prince's bodyguard is asking to see you. Chu Qingyan cut with a pair of scissors and almost cut it. She checked it and found that there weren't any big problems before putting down the scissors. She was silent. Ever since the palace banquet, she had not heard any news from Xiao Ran. Now that he suddenly sent someone over, she muttered in her heart. Why was he looking for her? All right, bring him to the guest room. I'll come after changing my clothes, she ordered. After a while, she appeared in the guest room. When Xiang Yu saw her, she respectfully bowed and said, Young Miss Chu, my family's highness is leaving the palace today. He has prepared a banquet at the Celestial Crane Pavilion and wants to invite you over. Chu Qingyan couldn't help raising her brows. Did he say what it was about? No, he didn't. Xiang Yu answered honestly. Although the other party's intentions were unclear, they had been good friends for many years. She couldn't bear to disappoint him. Moreover, he was about to get married, so she should go and congratulate him. All right, then you go first. I'll be there shortly. Yes. Xiang Yu bowed and retreated. After she left, Jasper asked in confusion, Master, do you really want to go? The rumors have been spreading like wildfire in the past few days. This subordinate is worried that someone with ulterior motives will make an issue out of it. It wasn't that she hadn't considered this problem before, but she still felt that she had to make a trip. If she could use this opportunity to cut off his thoughts, then no matter if it was for him or her, it would only be beneficial. The person who started the rumors has already been dealt with. Moreover, we have done nothing wrong, so don't worry. Chu Qingyan comforted her, then ordered Xining to prepare the carriage. However, she still took Jasper's words to heart. Before leaving, she decided to return to her room and change into men's clothing as a disguise. After all, this was a sensitive period, so it was best to avoid causing trouble if possible. Do we need to inform Lord? Xining didn't follow. After sending her master onto the carriage, she suddenly thought of something and asked. Chu Qingyan nodded. If he returns before I return, tell him my whereabouts. Xining accepted the order and retreated. Celestial Crane Tower was 2 streets away. The road was filled with carriages and it took more than an hour to arrive. Once they arrived, they were led to a private room on the 2nd floor. Chu Qingyan stood at the door for a while before reaching out to push the door open. Celestial Crane Tower had always been decorated with a generous and noble aura, so the first thing that entered her eyes was a large and lifelike peony painting. It was as if a real flower had bloomed in front of her eyes. She exclaimed in surprise. This painting came from a famous painter in Sichuan. The paintings in my palace are also his. If you like them, I'll have someone send a few over to you. A familiar yet unfamiliar voice sounded in the room. Chapter 1192. Chu Qingyan turned around, and a thin figure appeared in front of her. His face was pale, and his posture was frail. Was this person in front of her still the high-spirited and arrogant Xiao Ran that she knew? Why did he give off the feeling that he was seriously ill at this moment? What's wrong? Are you sick? She forgot all the words that she had prepared earlier when she saw him like this. She couldn't help but step forward and ask with concern. Seeing her worried expression, Xiao Ran chuckled and waved his hand. He said nonchalantly, I'm fine. I just fell into the water a few days ago and caught a cold. I'll be fine after a few days of rest. But I'm very happy that you still care about me. What are you talking about? You're my friend. Shouldn't I care about you? His words sounded a little strange. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. Xiao Ran smiled bitterly. Qingyan, you're so smart. You should be able to guess what I mean. I really don't know what you're trying to say. She was confused. I invited you here today to apologize. Xiao Ran smiled apologetically at her. Apologize? Yes, that falling into the water wasn't a coincidence. But the person who fell into the water was a coincidence. And all of this was planned by my mother. I apologize to you on her behalf. He felt bitter when he said this. If he hadn't jumped into the water in a hurry, then would there have been no marriage bestowment later on? He was very regretful. Chu Qingyan understood what he meant. She wanted to be confused about this matter in front of him, and let time dilute it, but he took the initiative to bring it up. Her gaze gradually turned sharp. Since they were talking openly, then there was no need to hide anything. From what you're saying, this whole thing was planned by your mother. Then what's her motive? There must be a reason for everything. Could it be that she wants to separate me and Lord? Xiao Ran didn't dare to look at her. He lowered his head and said, yes, she wants the marriage bestowment to be invalid. Because he suddenly plucked up his courage and slowly raised his head. His dim eyes suddenly brightened as he looked at the person in front of him. This is also the second reason why I invited you here. Qingyan, I like you very much. I've liked you since you left 5 years ago. I've waited for you for 5 years and missed you for 5 years. Now that you're back, I don't want to miss you again. That's why Mother came up with this plan after knowing my wish. He had mustered all his strength to confess his feelings to the woman he loved. This was the boldest thing he had ever done in his life, and it was also the first thing he had taken the initiative to do. 5 years ago, when they first met, he was jealous of her existence and took over the eldest brother, so he bullied her at first sight. Unfortunately, she was so calm and collected that she didn't take him seriously at all. Later on, she had met with mishaps one after another because of him. She was either poisoned or injured. He felt guilty towards her. Then, as he got to know her, he realized that she was a cute little girl who could bring joy and surprise to people. She was different from the people he had met before. In the imperial palace, most people were either afraid of him or tried to curry favor with him. No one was willing to play with him. But she was different. She treated him as a friend. She would ignore him, take care of him, play with him, and tell him the truth of life. This was something he could not understand from anywhere else. So gradually he became dependent on her and his eyes could not leave her. Until one day, he suddenly realized that his feelings for her had changed. He wanted to keep her by his side, protect her, and give her happiness. But when his eldest brother was forced to leave the capital, he was injured and could not do anything. He could only watch as she went further and further away from him. Then she left for 5 years. The taste of longing became sweet as he waited. It turned out that waiting could also make people feel happy. 5 years later, he met her again. She had already grown to the point where no one could recognize her. She was noble, beautiful, and generous, but her strange personality was still there. As soon as they met, they returned to the way they were in the past. He was very grateful for the gift from the heavens. Although she had grown up, she was still the same person. His heart could no longer stop beating faster for her. Just like in a phoenix seeking a phoenix, when there is a beauty, you will never forget her. When you don't see her for a day, you will go crazy thinking about her. Faced with Xiao Ran's sudden confession, Chu Qingyan was stunned. For a moment, she could not react. Qingyan, don't be scared by me. I really do like you. It's just that I never told you. No, that's not right. Last time at Hugua Temple, I played the song, A Phoenix Seeking a Phoenix for you. That day, I wanted to express my feelings, but you didn't give me the chance. Xiao Ran rubbed his head. He was a bit embarrassed, but he knew that at this time he could not show his cowardice. Otherwise, it would be easy to leave a bad impression. So he straightened his back and locked his eyes on her, unwilling to look away. Chu Qingyan's lips twitched. Knowing was one thing, but hearing him say it with her own ears was another. She felt a bit awkward and did not know what to say. Xiao Ran, don't forget that I am your eldest brother's fiancé. Xiao Ran nodded disapprovingly. I know, but this is not a problem. As long as you are willing to marry me, I will tell my eldest brother and imperial father that we are truly in love. They treat me so well, so they will not stop us. Hearing his matter-of-fact tone, Chu Qingyan felt that it was incomparably absurd. She really wondered if water had entered his head when he saved her. Could it be that he could hear the sound of water when he shook his head? She took a deep breath and tried to reason with him. What makes you think that your eldest brother will break off the engagement for you? Xiao Ran did not notice the coldness in her voice as he continued. Eldest brother has been used to being free since he was young. He doesn't like people forcing him to do anything. When the marriage was bestowed, it was without his knowledge. Moreover, There is such a big age gap between you two, so you definitely don't have anything in common. Only when you are around the same age can you talk. You don't have to worry. Ever since I was young, Imperial Brother has always doted on me. As long as I like it, he will put it in front of me. She already could not listen anymore. How could there be such a selfish person? In the past, she did not realize that he was so childish and took things for granted. Enough, I don't want to listen anymore. Xiao Ran, I'm telling you, everything is not like what you think. Being interrupted halfway, Xiao Ran anxiously said, Qingyan, I am sincere towards you. This was not a question of sincerity, all right? She took a deep breath and then looked at him seriously. Xiao Ran, tell me honestly, in your Imperial Mother's plan to fall into the water, what role did you play? In other words, before it happened, did you know anything about it? The smile instantly froze on his face. Xiao Ran looked at her, not knowing what to do. Chapter 1193. Seeing his reaction, Chu Qingyan, who still had hope for him, felt her heart turn cold. So you knew that your mother schemed against me at that time, but you stood by and watched it happen. If Miss Jing hadn't happened to appear there at that time and become the scapegoat, then I, who is standing in front of you, might have faced ruin and a stain for the rest of my life. Then, my engagement would have been broken, and I would have been forced to marry you? After saying this, Xiao Ran's face turned paler and paler. He moved his lips, not knowing how to explain. Chu Qingyan clenched her fists. Her gaze was serious and her voice was filled with sadness and disappointment. Xiao Ran, I didn't think that you were this kind of person. You would use any means to get what you want, even if it doesn't belong to you. You're too selfish. I treated you as a friend and His Highness loved you so much. I didn't think that you would bite the hand that feeds you and accuse me. With such a serious accusation being placed on his head, Xiao Ran started to panic. He hurriedly waved his hands and explained, Qingyan, it's not like that. I didn't know that Imperial Mother wanted you to fall into the water. Right, you might not have known that your mother planned to make me fall into the water. It was such a simple and crude plan, but you must have known that something would happen to me that night. Although you didn't know what happened. Wasn't the result the same? Xiao Ran, have you heard that it's better to tear down a temple than to tear down a marriage? What happened to all the books you've been reading for so many years? She remembered that when she first met him, he was a bit arrogant, but he wasn't a bad person. Why did he become more selfish and only think about himself when he grew up? Could it be that she changed him in the 5 years that they were missing? Yes, I admit that I know a little. However, Qingyan, if the two of us want to be together, then the engagement will become an obstacle. Although Imperial Mother's plan is the worst, she is doing it for our own good. After that incident, he also blamed himself. He blamed his Lady Mother for using such a method, but he could not criticize his Lady Mother in front of others. If Qingyan was unhappy and wanted to hit or scold him, she could just direct it at him. Chu Qingyan was about to explode. She had never seen such an unreasonable person. She calmed down and said seriously, Xiao Ran, which eye of yours saw that I wanted to break off the engagement? Don't always be so self-righteous. That's your opinion. Don't force it on me. Moreover, I look down on people who are unscrupulous in love. You hurt someone and still say it's for the good of the other party. I have nothing to say to you. You're on your own now. After saying that, she didn't want to stay under the same roof with him anymore. She was afraid that he would say something else, and she wouldn't be able to resist slapping him. She turned around and wanted to leave. But Xiao Ran immediately walked to the door to stop her. He held her hand and said sincerely, Qingyan, I'm not unscrupulous, and I'm not self-righteous. You've misunderstood. His hand was very hot, so Chu Qingyan flung it away. Looking at Xiao Su, who was gradually approaching, she took a few steps back and kept a distance. She looked at him from the corner of her eyes. I misunderstood? Think back to what you said just now. Which one of your words was wrong? Moreover, you already have Miss Jing. You've sowed the seeds, so you have to bear the consequences. She's a good and innocent girl, but because of you, she suffered such humiliation. You have to treat her well. When Xiao Ran heard this, he suddenly realized something and couldn't help but chuckle. Qingyan, you said so many angry words today, but you didn't mean it, right? Are you jealous? Jealous? Why would she be jealous? Without waiting for her reply, Xiao Ran giggled and continued. Don't worry, Imperial Father only gave her the position of concubine. If you're willing to break off the engagement with eldest brother, the position of concubine will definitely be yours. No one will suppress you, and I only like you. Hearing him talk more and more nonsense, Chu Qingyan felt like she was playing the lute to a cow. She couldn't even get angry. Xiao Ran, wake up. The problem between us isn't this at all. She took a deep breath again, and decided to explain everything. Otherwise, with his brain circuit, he wouldn't be able to understand what she meant. The person in front of him suddenly looked at him seriously. Xiao Ran's heart skipped a beat, and he had a bad feeling. In your thoughts, your eldest brother and I aren't a good match. It doesn't matter if he has me or not, right? Her face was as calm as water as she continued. Xiao Ran, let me tell you, this is just your wishful thinking. You are happy and lucky to have Imperial Father who dotes on you and Imperial Mother who dotes on you. But my Highness, he only has me. He won't let me leave him, and it's even more impossible for me to leave him. My feelings for him are very deep. Unless we part in death, we will never part. Xiao Ran's face paled as he stared at her with wide eyes. I've always treated you as a good friend. Because of His Highness, I also treat you like my own younger brother. If I've done anything to cause you to misunderstand, I'll apologize to you right here. If there were some words that would hurt someone, but had to be said clearly, then she would choose to be the bad guy. She didn't want the situation to become more serious. Xiao Ran, although you and His Highness don't have the same mother, he treats you like his own younger brother. He modestly gives in to you, cares for you and loves you. It's all because of the love an older brother has for his younger brother. However, you can't use this as a bargaining chip. You can't think that no matter what in this world, your eldest brother will give it to you unconditionally. The Xiao Ran in front of her became paler and paler. His expression also became more and more painful. However, it was better to deal with the pain quickly. Today she had to correct his twisted thoughts. Otherwise, it might become a hidden danger in the future. So Xiao Ran, if you want something, then fight for it reasonably. However, before you fight for it, ask if the other person is willing or not. No one should be unconditionally good to another person, and no one can take other people's efforts for free. Your eldest brother truly loves and cares for you, but you can't hurt him because of your selfishness. You've already received much more than him. She said so much in one breath. She also didn't know if he would listen. Looking at him standing there with his head lowered, she couldn't see his expression. However, his entire body was emitting an extremely depressed aura. She couldn't bear to see him like this. But things had already come to this point. There was no point in saying more. If he wanted to walk out of this, he could only rely on himself. She pursed her lips. Think about it carefully. I'm leaving. When she brushed shoulders with him, he suddenly spoke in a low voice. A gentle and graceful lady is a good match for a gentleman. I'm only pursuing the lady I like. Is that wrong? She looked at him, but his face was covered by his long hair. She couldn't see his expression clearly. Why do you have to elevate it to the point that I'm unpardonably evil? Facing his question, she fell silent. However, Xiao Ran's tone turned to pleading. Qingyan, I don't believe that you don't like me. Sorry, I don't like you. Chapter 1194. I'm sorry, I don't like you. This sentence was like a bolt from the blue, exploding in his head. He had been infatuated with her for so many years, secretly hiding his feelings for her in his heart for so many years. He was happy and sad for her for so many years, but in return she said, I'm sorry, I don't like you. Xiao Ran felt as if his entire world had collapsed. He slowly raised his head, his eyes wet and bloodshot as he looked at her unwillingly. Qingyan, I like you so much. Why can't you consider me? Chu Qingyan looked at his pained expression, and could not bear to see him in such pain. However, the worst thing in a relationship was to be ambiguous and involved. Thus, she had to make it clear today and cleanly cut off his feelings for her. Liking someone is a very strange feeling. Some people fall in love at first sight, some people fall in love over time, but if you want to give a reason for liking someone, I'm afraid you can't even explain it clearly. Maybe it's a moment of throbbing, or maybe it's a look, an action, or an event, and then countless throbbing will converge into liking someone. However, it's very easy to see that you don't love someone. From the beginning to the end, I've always treated you as a friend, and in my heart, I already have your eldest brother. In front of outsiders, she was never shy to admit her feelings for Xiao Su. If Xiao Su was here at this moment and heard her confession, he would probably be overjoyed. Xiao Ran, feelings aren't like favors. If you help me, I owe you a point. It's also not like buying something with a clear price and an equivalent exchange. Feelings are unfair. No matter how much you give, you might not get anything in return. I can't reciprocate your love for me, but I'm very grateful for your feelings for me and the time and energy you've spent for me. Because in this world, every feeling deserves to be treated with gentleness, whether it's reasonable or not. Moreover, I'm not as good as you think. I have many flaws, but you haven't been with me for a long time, so you haven't discovered that in this world, there are many people who like because they don't understand, and give up because they understand. Wasting time is wasting life, so in order to cherish time, you should give up on me. She still treated him as a friend and confided in him, hoping that he would turn back soon. Although she couldn't bear to say these words, she still had to say them. Xiao Ran shook his head. At this moment, no matter what she said, he would only see it as an excuse. He didn't believe that she didn't have any feelings for him. Qingyan, are you saying this because of eldest brother? You don't have to worry about that imperial edict at all. As long as you are willing to be with me, I can deal with imperial father and imperial brother. If it really doesn't work, I will beg imperial mother. Xiao Ran. Chu Qingyan sharply cut him off, her eyes cold. When will you recognize the truth? His Highness and I love each other. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It doesn't matter if there's an imperial edict or not. Don't be so stubborn. Xiao Ran was a little flustered. Qingyan, don't be angry. He stepped forward, wanting to pull her, but she dodged him. A trace of hurt flashed through his eyes. Chu Qingyan avoided him and walked towards the door. But after taking a few steps, she suddenly stopped. Xiao Ran thought that there was a turning point for the better. Just as he was about to anxiously express his sincerity, he heard her say, Xiao Ran, I've always treated you as a friend. In the past, in the present, and in the future, it won't change. But in view of your unstable emotions, you're too paranoid. I don't think we should meet again in the near future. Don't come looking for me either. Wait until you've thought it through. Otherwise, if we meet on the road, I'll pretend that we don't know each other. Xiao Ran was stunned. He muttered, I just like you. Do you have to be so heartless? Chu Qingyan smiled bitterly. This is for your own good, and also for His Highness. I like His Highness very much, so I have to be responsible for our feelings. So in our lives, as long as there's something or someone that affects our feelings, I won't hesitate to stay away. So Xiao Ran, you still don't know what it feels like to like someone, so don't keep saying that you like them. As a friend, I'll give you one last sentence. Like is not possession. I'm leaving, goodbye. Xiao Ran sat down dejectedly, looking as if he had lost his soul. He really wanted to urge her to stay, but since she had already said so much, there was no point in forcing her to stay. He had clearly worked hard, so why was it all for nothing in the end? Why was it that she didn't like him? Was he really such a failure? Hearing the door open and the figure gradually leave, Xiao Ran scratched his head in irritation. He tilted his head back and downed the wine in one gulp. After helping him close the door again, Chu Qingyan turned to go down the stairs. But out of the corner of her eye, she saw a light pink figure standing by the door. She subconsciously looked over. Jing Mingzhu's eyes were red as she stared at her with pain and hatred. Why was she here? Chu Qingyan was confused. Looking at her, she should have been standing there for quite some time. She should have heard everything that she needed to hear. Although she felt a little guilty that she had become the scapegoat for falling into the water, she wasn't the main culprit. She felt guilty because she wasn't the one who should be responsible. Because they weren't familiar with each other, Chu Qingyan only nodded at her before turning to leave. Jing Mingzhu tightly gripped the silk handkerchief in her hand. Her entire body was trembling with anger, and her heart was filled with disbelief. Ever since she had fallen into the water and been saved, she had been in a state of uncertainty. She didn't know how the palace would deal with her, but when she thought that it was the fourth prince who saved her, her heart was filled with incomparable sweetness. Later on, the palace issued an imperial edict, and she got what she wanted. Although she was only a concubine, she believed that with her family background, as long as she gave birth to a son, she would be promoted to the main wife. During this time, she had stayed in the palace and sent people to inquire about the fourth prince. It was a pity that he hadn't shown his face after the palace banquet. Until today, when she received news that he had left the palace, she immediately left the palace. She wanted to thank him for saving her life and meet him. But when she hurried over, she heard the news that she couldn't accept. Falling into the water had been a scheme, but she had been careless and had been mistaken for Chu Qingyan. So the fourth prince's heart had been set on Chu Qingyan. She had just been an accident caused by a mistake in the plan. Because of this bolt from the blue, she woke up from the ecstasy of the past few days. Some details that she had overlooked suddenly popped up. When the fourth prince found out that the person he had saved was her, he was completely stunned. His eyes even seemed to be filled with regret. That shocked and helpless look was something that she would never be able to forget for the rest of her life. She watched as Chu Qingyan disappeared from her sight, and her eyes slowly filled with hatred. Chu Qingyan, from today onwards, you and I cannot exist under the same sky. Chapter 1195. At the relay station, Pang Zhijing leaned against the back of the chair in boredom. Seeing Luer busy herself, she couldn't help but feel a little dazzled. Rest for a while. You've been busy since this morning. Aren't you tired? Luer wiped away her sweat and said with a smile, I'm not tired. This servant is organizing the things you'll need on your wedding day. Time is too tight. This servant has to hurry. We can't be looked down upon just because we're from another country. Hearing this, Pang Zhijing was slightly stunned and felt a little touched. Luer, you're so kind. Luer blushed, feeling flattered. What are you saying, Your Highness? I'm just doing my job. This was different. She had been here for so long, and all the maidservants by her side had followed her with a purpose. If they weren't monitoring her, they were forced to follow her. None of them really treated her like a princess. Only this silly girl was wholeheartedly good to her. She thought, if I leave in the future, what will she do? No, before I leave, I'll definitely settle Luer down. Just as she was thinking, Luer suddenly cried out, What's going on? Are we missing a set of jewelry? What should we do? We'll need it next month. Pang Zhijing wasn't that nervous. She said indifferently, Then there's no need. It's tiring to wear so many things anyway. That's different. This represents status. No, we have to think of something quickly. Luer anxiously paced back and forth. Seeing how anxious she was, even more concerned than a bride-to-be like her, Pang Zhijing couldn't help but shake her head and stand up. She smiled and said, Let's go. Princess, where are you going? Luer was confused. Didn't you say that it's missing? Then it's definitely too late to order one now. I'll take you to pick a ready-made set. Luer thought that this was the only way. She hurriedly followed her master, who had already walked out of the room. Pang Zhijing stood at the door of the most famous Linlang pavilion in the capital. She glanced at the decor and nodded in satisfaction. Then she led her people in. The shop assistant standing by the door knew that Pang Zhijing's identity was extraordinary when he saw her dress. He immediately welcomed her warmly. Miss, what do you want to buy? We have all the gold and silver jewelry you need. No matter if it's from Tiannan or Dibei, I can find it for you. Pang Zhijing pointed at Luer, who was behind her, and said to him, Just follow her. If she wants anything, just pack it up for her. As she spoke, she took out an ingot of silver from her sleeve and gave it to him. Treat them well. The clerk took the silver with both hands, and his eyes lit up. This young lady was truly generous. He nodded and bowed, and became even more attentive. He turned to Luer and asked, Then, young lady, can you tell this humble one what you need? Luer glanced at her princess and the latter waved her hand at her, telling her not to worry and to take a look around the store. Looks? She thought. If she transmigrated back to the modern world, she must take some with her. Then she would be rich. Any one of them would be priceless. With this thought in mind, she became even more excited. She walked slowly along the counter and finally reached a staircase. She thought for a moment and walked up directly. It was like a television show. The items upstairs were all treasures, and were even more valuable. However, the stairs were quite steep. She was full recently and lacked exercise. Even taking a step was difficult for her. However, when she was about to step on the last step, she heard someone talking. The voice belonged to a man. She turned around and wanted to leave, but she stopped when she heard the conversation. Do you think that princess has a problem? There are so many good men in our Sichuan. Why did she choose Prince Yi, the sickly one? A voice criticized him politely. His words were full of pity. Brother Wang is right. I heard that the princess is as beautiful as a flower, and is a rare beauty. It's a pity that her eyesight is bad, and she chose a half-dead prince consort who has one foot in the coffin. What a pity. Another voice echoed. Brother Li, you agree too, don't you? I have a relative who works in the Imperial Hospital. He said it's a miracle that Prince Yi is still alive. If it weren't for those precious herbs, he would have died long ago. My relative also said that His Majesty didn't expect him to have descendants. That so-called royal brother said in a low voice, his tone faintly showing off. His mouth was full of my relative, as if he couldn't wait for others to know how glorious it was for him to have a relative working in the palace. Is Prince Yi so sick that he can't have sex? Then it's a pity that the princess is going to be a widow at such a young age. The man laughed wretchedly. Although his voice was low, it was very cold. What do you think? She's even out of breath when she walks. How can she do that? The brother Wang laughed and then said in a low voice, let me tell you something. I heard from my relative that Prince Yi's birth mother was actually a guilty palace maid. If it weren't for seducing His Majesty, there wouldn't be. Before Brother Wang could finish his sentence, a vase suddenly flew at him. He staggered and almost fell flat on his face. His friend beside him hurriedly supported him. The two of them turned around at the same time. A beautiful girl suddenly appeared at the top of the stairs. Brother Wang, who was hit by the vase, said in exasperation, You crazy woman, why did you hit me for no reason? I threw it at your dirty mouth. I threw it at your sour grapes. I threw it at you because you can't eat grapes. I threw it at you because you can't stand others living well. Pang Zhijing put her hands on her waist and looked around for something to hit him with. The brother Wang took down his hand and found blood on it. He flew into a rage. Who are you? Tell me your name. I'm going to kill you. Pang Zhijing rolled her eyes at him. Do you think you're a Jianghu man? You can't just tell me your name. I'm not that stupid. Also, I advise you not to know who I am. Otherwise, you'll have the impulse to jump off the building. The other man saw that she didn't have a maid with her, and she was a stranger. He was tempted. He poked his friend and said, Brother Wang, this girl looks good. Do you want to play with her and sell her to the brothel keeper? Aren't you short of money recently? You can take the opportunity to make some money and use it as your medical expenses. The brother Wang heard this and secretly had an idea. Although the girl in front of him was a little unruly, she was as beautiful as the top hostess of Moon Hotel. The two of them often did this kind of thing because they were local tyrants. They exchanged glances and hit it off. They looked at Pang Zhijing with a sinister smile. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.